Just let me know. Hey, we have 2 galaxies. Can you still hear me, Miguel?
I can hear you. You could hear me?
Which galaxy is that? Galaxy.
This Kim. Simpson.com.
Yes, Kim. How are you?
I'm good.
I was actually looking for your name.
Oh, no.
I'll be getting back to you very shortly with the blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, folks are coming in already. So I see Kim and I see another galaxy. Which galaxy is that? Hi. Who's the lady in the glasses like this?
That's Megan.
Megan. I can't hear Megan. Megan, can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Megan? I can't hear Megan.
You have to unmute your mic.
Still can't hear Megan.
Let me see. Let me see if I can.
Katrina, are you there?
Hi, just joined. Yes, sir.
Megan, unmute your mic, okay?
No Megan yet. Guess she's working on that mute thing. Just giving the others an opportunity to check in. Time flies. Didn't we just do this like 5 minutes ago? And then suddenly we're here again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Who said that? Ah,
My boy.
hola. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Just fine. Just fine. Welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Just waiting for
Hello.
the to kick in. Okay, who do we have so far? Okay, admit on. So, folks, how are those papers going?
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Is that good or bad?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They go in.
Good evening, all.
Good
Good
evening.
evening, everyone.
Well,
Mr. Wilkinson, I think my biggest challenge is question D, that risk question.
question D. I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm going to. Do I have anything to say about D? Let me see. I believe I have something to say about D. And I wish you would raise the question when you get everybody on board so that some other people might have a similar problem.
Okay.
Yeah, please make a note of that. Let's see.
So Tim, you good?
How is the reading going, by the way?
Mm-hmm.
That going too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess everybody is reading for the paper, honest. Reading here and reading there.
and I have to start all over again because I had a problem when they was installing the office in home and my computer,
Oh,
and
my God.
everything just gone. So I have to start from zeros.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When,
That was a mess.
well, yeah, when it rains, it really, really was.
Yeah, I'm glad the elephants don't fly, you know. You know why?
Oh, that'd be wicked.
I may know why, but your colleagues may not know what that means. Why is it
Yeah,
just the elephants
you
don't
know
fly?
the birds sometimes do fly in, shoot you, you know, with their So if an elephant fly, that will come all on me in
Oh,
these
yeah,
days.
okay, great. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
So,
yeah, that would be a hell of a situation.
oh, yeah.
Oh my God, it's a good one. Yeah, the elephants better stay where they are. We have enough problems.
Mm-mm.
Anybody run into any risk-related issues today? Any?
Erics.
No, no risk, nothing that you can think of. Still only the corona.
No, well, you know, about the corona, talking seriously, I was reading that FATF, the 2nd of April, made a communication because due this coronavirus, people was doing more transactions online, and they was trying to help charities and all this stuff, but people was being scammed.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a high.
So
We've gotten
they,
warnings about
yeah,
fraud.
so they made a statement in Paris, the April the 2nd,
Yes.
and they put out their online procedure, like a guidelines.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so they was speaking about now all these charities, about the traffic of medicines and all this stuff.
Yep.
There was statement about that. So very interesting for whoever want to read that. That was really, really interesting.
Absolutely, and thank you for actually putting it on the board, because it's very commonplace now. Folks are trying to run all kinds of programs. Be very, very careful what you buy. Don't
Yeah.
put money anywhere unless you are satisfied completely.
Yeah, even for the government help, like
Uh,
United States checks
absolutely.
and all the stuff, they was trying to scam them.
Absolutely.
So
Those guys are busy as hell now. Scammers, fraudsters, money launderers, dope dealers.
Yeah.
Those guys are very busy. And now that the world is in a turmoil, they find it to be a very opportune time to try and get away with stuff. So be very careful.
I know those of us that are working from home, we're receiving warnings constantly to be aware of fraud and be careful how we
yeah.
use our devices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don't take anything for granted. Verify everything right now until things settle down. Because those guys they are on the prowl. They are unapologetic. They don't care that you're giving up your last bit of money. They don't care about your problems. All they want is what they want. So be very careful. And they know that everybody's in a panic now. So people are vulnerable. People are vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
I saw a lady on Dr. Phil. Not that I watched Dr. Phil, I just stumbled on Dr. Phil. But she was saying that she gave up to about almost $1 million to some guy who was promising to come to the United States and marry her.
Oh my.
Very
That happens a
expensive.
lot. That happens a lot.
Yeah, I'm like, my God, like, wow, why couldn't I be that dishonest? Why? That means that all I need to do is pick up a phone and like say hi. This is the love of your life, and I'm here to give you everything you dreamed of. Just keep sending me some money, and I'll be there to be with you forever and ever and ever. That's all I need to do. I don't need a university degree. I don't need to go to work. Just do that and then be rich. Amazing. Be careful, folks. I don't know, for some reason, people are still falling even for that scam.
Yeah.
Beats the hell out of me. I could understand to some extent if some guy calls from Nigeria or Nagasaki or whatever, wherever the hell they are, and they say, "Can you send me a plane ticket and $2,000 or $3,000, and I'll be there next week Tuesday at 10 o'clock." I get that one a little bit. Maybe you can fall for that one. Maybe, God forbid. But if you're going to start spending tens of thousands of dollars, I don't know. That's interesting,
Yes, sir.
to say the least.
Yeah.
So yeah, the point is, be careful. They're out there. Okay.
Okay, Freddie says he's running a little bit late.
Freddie.
Yeah, but he's
Oh,
coming.
is that the newlywed?
Yeah.
He,
Oh boy, in trouble.
he probably got some late instructions from the man,
Yeah.
and so he has to deal with that first.
From the base.
Yeah, or else
Yeah.
he is going to have a unpredictable evening.
You bad.
Sorry, experience is a hell of a teacher.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a son who's been married 5 years now,
Mhm.
and so I tease him all the time. When he thinks he has an issue, I'm like, "You think you have an issue, huh? Only 5 years, I see. I'll see you in 5 more years, if you are so fortunate."
Oh Lord.
So yeah. Freddie.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, marriage is always a challenge.
always.
Yeah.
Always. People come to me all the time and says, "Why is it always such a challenge?" I'm like, "Man, that's a multifaceted question." But I can give you a simple answer that doesn't cover everything, and the simple answer is probably this: it's probably always challenging because of, first of all, the reasons why people get married, and then secondly, once they make the decision to get married, people are changing all the time for one reason or another.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, and then thirdly, and somewhere along the line, the true people actually emerge, and then, things like that kind of stuff. So that's in a nutshell why it's so challenging. The reasons why we got married, people are changing in marriage, and then the real characteristics come out afterwards. Like, oh my God, if only I'd known she didn't like to wash dishes, I would have.
You have to put
Buy
God.
sanitaries.
Correct, Lavon. Lavon, you correct. That's
You
true.
have to put God first, guys. I'm sorry.
I'll put God
Once you
first,
serve Him, He takes care of the rest. It ain't easy, but He takes care of the rest.
including the dishes.
Yeah, the dishes can be there sometimes. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So don't worry about the dishes. Put God first, and dishes will
Can't
get
fix
God.
everything.
No, you can't. Doggone it. Yeah, keep working it. That's it.
Yeah, that's a permanent work and
Yeah,
a hard job.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a compliance work.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, you're constantly doing CDD, EDD, doggone.
Know your client.
You know your customer, re-know them. Because just when you get to know your spouse, like 10 years have passed and they become something else. You're like, kiss my foot. Now you have to do updates and new set of morning, new set of knowing. Because the person you married 10 years ago, that's not the same person.
That's why I say
like the person.
TYH. Know your husband.
Yeah, and your wife, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, because people are always changing for one reason.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
sometimes they know it, and sometimes we're not even aware that we've changed. Okay? I always tease my wife, I'm like, "Where's the angel I married?" She said, "I'm still an angel." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh,
Let me just make sure she's not. She'll be most hurt.
boy.
But yeah, no, she's just really fine. The point I'm saying is, yeah, those are the reasons why it's so challenging. You just hang in there, okay? Unless, of course, you have a wife beater. Always leave wife beaters.
Definitely.
Yeah, and always leave husband beaters too.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Always, what do you say? Always leave what?
Wife beaters,
Wife
husband
beaters.
beaters.
I
Oh,
know we
yeah,
get all that.
definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Well, yes,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just saying while we wait. But these are risk issues, aren't they? These are all related to the topics we're talking about anyway, CDD, TDD, and all that. Because you have to do all that if you're going to manage these things well. But yeah, if you have a wife beater, leave that person. If you have a husband beater, like wife beaters like use their fists and feet. Husband beaters don't use fists. What do they use?
Hands?
No, not hands.
Their mouth.
Aha.
Oh, they are.
They tell you all kinds of mean stuff like, yo.
That's the worst kind of.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's the
yeah,
worst one, right?
Because
absolutely.
they kill you spiritually,
Trying
mentally,
to break you
physically.
down.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even when you run away, you still hear it in your head, like, oh my God, I'm not even there. And I can still hear it.
You
Yeah.
shouldn't have been in the first place.
All right?
Yeah.
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 So, yeah, absolutely challenging. But somebody said put God first and keep on.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yes, that's the deal. Okay, let me start my register to see who's come so far, and then I can probably do a check-in again a little bit later. Where's Wilkinson? Anybody saw Wilkinson from Fidelity?
No.
No.
What the hell happened there?
In the group, Levon.
Yeah, he's okay.
I haven't seen him.
Yeah, he wasn't here yesterday. He's not here yet. What's going on with Wilkinson?
I mean, I came pretty late. I can't talk, so.
Well,
I spoke to him on the phone, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it.
doggone it. Is that the other guy that's married?
Yes.
Oh.
Sorry.
he's
But the way,
busy.
yeah, the way we are labeled.
I know. I'm gonna pull a Dr. Phil. I'm gonna call him just to put him on the spot and see what it is. I'm gonna put him on speaker too. Let's make this doggone ICA thing a little more interesting.
Oh man, don't do that, Sam.
Hopefully, no answer so far. May I speak with Mr. Wilkinson, please? Mr. Wilkinson, this is Mr. Wilkinson. I am bloody well fine. I just want you to know that I have you on speaker and everybody in your class is listening to you. They are fine. You're wondering what the hell happened to you.
Oh boy.
You mean, are you going to check in? What does it say? Oh, you're waiting for me to let you in? Doggone, hold on. I'm sorry, Jermaine. I was so busy talking to your colleagues about how to survive a marriage. I didn't look up to see who was waiting. So I'll just, let me get you in. Are you in?
I'm in.
Somebody else is, who just came in?
Hello, I'm in.
Janelle?
Hi, this is Roberta.
Hi.
I'm in.
Hi. Janelle, you in?
Lucia.
I see Jermaine. Can you see me?
Pardon me?
Just checking to see where Jermaine is. Great. Do you have your mic on?
think so. It's saying recording in the top left hand side.
Yes, we can all hear you now, Jermaine.
Fantastic.
Welcome aboard. We didn't see you yesterday. We all were worried about you.
No worries.
We were
I
just
am here.
making sure that you were not a victim of any spousal abuse.
Don't say that too loud now. The wife is in the room.
Okay. Okay, doggone it. Who says that this has to be all boring, doggone CDP? Okay, welcome aboard, Jermaine. Kim is here. Yes, Kim? 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 Oh, okay, Kim. Great. Victoria, yes. Está aquí.
Presente.
Presente, sí. Lucia?
Yes, I'm here.
Is Lucia?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, great, right there. Okay, Megan.
Hi, right here.
Great, where's Megan? Fantastic. I can only see some faces, the others I can just see names. Okay, can you guys see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, what the hell
I
am
can see you.
what am I doing?
Looking at us.
Your hand is up.
Sharing.
Okay, great. Lavon,
Present.
Lavon, you there?
Present.
Oh, the madness. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you today. Is Helga with you?
Let me see. No, I don't see her yet.
Okay. Maybe she'll join us a little later. Frederick is here, yes? No, I'm sorry. Frederick is coming. Maybe. Tira. Tira?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are, Tira. Antonia. Antonia? Antonia will probably join us later. Janelle.
Good night.
Hi, Janelle. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Just fine, just fine. Welcome aboard. Renee? Renee is coming. Okay, who is this? Somebody Brown. Gladstone. Anybody saw Gladstone?
Gladstone.
Yeah, Gladstone.
No.
Where the hell is Gladstone anyway? We don't know. Maybe he'll join us. Oh, he's a regulator. He's probably Keva. Okay. And last but not least on this list is this my foot. What's sweet name?
Desante. I don't think she's there.
Yes. Okay. Great. All right. And then from my other list, is Blair here with us yet?
Hi, I'm here.
Where's Blair? Blair. Hi, Blair.
Hi.
Vivian. Okay. Kira. Okay. Colleen. Krishna. Is Krishna there? Higgins? Oh, I see the name. Kareem. Robin. Okay. Anishka. Hi, Anishka. Welcome aboard. Katrina.
Hi.
Hi, there you are. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
Alberta.
Hello, Sarah.
There you are, Alberta. I see Krishna just checked in.
Yes, I don't know. My mic wasn't working for some reason, but it's on now.
Okay, is Kareem with you?
No, I believe he's working on the assignment. So I don't think he's going to be with us today.
Doggone it. Okay, Joshua. Kevin. Okay. And last but not least, Brian Hepburn. Okay. Is there anybody who is on with us whose name I didn't call? Okay, great. Now, before we begin the actual lecture for today, first of all, I'd like for you guys to listen to, by the way, what happened to Miguel? Miguel, are you there? I'd like for you guys to listen to a YouTube thingy that I pulled up that I think might be of interest to you before we begin our lecture today. So I'm going to pull it up and see if you guys, can you see this guy? Can you see this guy on the YouTube?
No.
No.
No, I can't see.
So I wonder how do I get you to see him? So I'm just trying to see if I can get this thing to. Miguel, are you there? Where did my technical guy go? Let me see if I'll have the same luck that I had with Jermaine.
Do you see a share content on your screen?
Share. I see something that says share screen.
Yeah, try that.
Try that one. I wouldn't lose you guys, would I?
You shouldn't, because if on my phone I have share content and I go to screen, then you see exactly what's on my screen.
Okay, so far so good. Something came up. Do I click share again?
Yeah.
Now, do I click on my YouTube before I click share, or do I click on it after? Before.
Go click on that share screen now, Wilkie.
What I'm trying to do, Miguel,
Yeah.
is to bring up my YouTube for them to see.
Yeah, no problem. You hit on the share screen and then bring up your YouTube.
Okay.
Now, yeah, now you're good to go.
And then bring up the YouTube. Can you guys see it now?
There we go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Can you still see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. It's not very long. I just want you guys to take a few minutes and listen to this guy ramble a little bit, and then we'll get into our afternoon stuff. I did promise to talk a little bit about the paper again. Somebody raised a very interesting question earlier. I hope she's made a note of that so that she can raise it, and any other questions that might be helpful to everyone. But until then, let's start with this guy, whoever the heck he is, and see what he has to say about our lecture this afternoon.
Cover the second item out on our new CE implementation roadmap. And what we're covering is defining your risk-based approach. Now, really, at the
risk-based that we were talking about.
Rule, that's what we're talking about. You use a risk-based approach referenced over and over
and over again.
Over again.
Yes.
In FinCil document dated May 11, 2016. And the reason is because that is really at the heart of this whole concept of pillar is we need you, banks, we need you to take a look at
financial institutions.
And based on risk that you have deemed that you need to address and that you're going to put things in place to mitigate those risks, I need you to take a new look at this. So I've said it before, not a whole lot to do here, except for a clarification percentage.
Mr. Wilkinson, can that be turned up at all? Because it's really low for me.
Identify, which is 25% or more, or controlling interest.
better?
You all know that by now. But what I'll talk about are the three
Yes, thank you.
a risk-based approach. Now, some people will break this into 4. To simplify, we're going to just use 3. So think about the first is customer. And think about, what do I need to know from my customer? And what information, if I gathered, would make me want to get more information? That's the key concept with your customer information that you're trying to gather. So I call this the stop and pause filter. What is going to make you stop and then pause and say, I need to learn more about this customer? So for those people that are in the front line, that are interacting with your business customers, that may not be as informed about BSA, AML, that the risks, the concerns, the question sets, you're going to have to come up with a question set that helps them along this process. So think about this. Think about your customer question sets in 3 different ways, and just think of them as filters, okay? The first filter, I think this is a very wide filter. This is basic information that you're going to gather, you're going to collect, you're going to collect probably on every single customer. There's nothing alarming here. However, if you learn that the customer does not want to just open up a checking account individual, they have a business, then you start asking questions about the types of business, and you get into a second layer, which is a second filter. I've drawn a very crude example of this, but you can see 1 is very wide filter, 2 a little bit more, and 3 is where you want to have a very tight filter. Those filters represent the information that you want to collect. So the tighter the filter, the more information that you want to collect. And the way that you know which filter you need to use is based on the questions that you have developed to ask your customers. That is the first thing to think about. The second is country. And country, for many of you, you probably think, well, country is not something that I have to worry about. We're a local bank, we're a community bank. We don't really do stuff internationally. I understand that, but think about this. Think about a farmer that farms sugarcane. And does that farmer sell locally, or does that farmer sell internationally? If they sell internationally, you have an entirely different question set that you need to ask. Who do they sell to? What are the customers they sell to? Are those countries where you should be concerned about illegal activity that is? I'm sorry for that blip in the video. I'm picking back up. I was talking about country risk. When I was explaining about sugarcane farmers and if that farmer in fact ships the product to a country that is a high-risk country. But when you go to collect information on beneficial owners, now you're thinking about their ties to those same countries. So as you learn information about the customer, also learn information about the beneficial owners and their potential ties to illegal activities in countries. And I don't really need to go into too much detail on this, because all you have to do is Google farmer money laundering, and you'll get some pretty shocking examples. One example is a farmer who in Oklahoma was raising quarter horses. This individual was originally from Mexico, or maybe I think it was Colombia, but they had he was tied to a drug cartel. 2 of his brothers were very well known as illegal activity. This guy was a bricklayer, came to the United States. He was a bricklayer, And I don't know how he got citizenship. It did not detail it out, but he was married, and then he starts raising quarter horses. And the story was that he just had come into some money. He had just come into money, and they were using this as a way to launder money. So the country, it's not necessarily, that filter is not just necessarily do they conduct business internationally, although certainly that's something that would be of concern. But as you learn about beneficial owners, where are their ties, and do they have relations with countries that would cause you concern? If so, obviously you're going to collect additional information. And then lastly is your products and services. Now, what you want to do is first, you want to use the first filter, which is customer, the second filter, which is country risk. And then you want to look at those two and apply that to your third filter, which is products and services. So based on the customer, based on any country risk that you might have identified, what are the mix of products and services that that customer wants to utilize? How are they going to utilize those? And that provides you with your risk-based approach. So what you need to do is create a scoring mechanism. A lot of people sell a table-driven. That's easy. That's fine. It's an easy way to do it. But you need to come up with a methodology and approach that says, this is how we're going to score. This is why we're going to score. So if you think about your scoring, your risk-based approach, at the end of the day, the information that you gather provides context for your customer, provides context for the transactions that you monitor. And that is critical for mitigating your risk. Think about this, without a risk-based approach, you're collecting information, you go into a silo, and then on the back end, you're doing transaction monitoring, and you're seeing these activities, but without context, without a custom profile, you're really not doing much to add value to the process. So that is the purpose of defining your risk-based approach. I hope this has helped. Next, we're going to be talking about your methodology and use for your customer risk profile. So I hope this is helpful. Again, we're going to post all of this. If you download the implementation roadmap, each week we're going to be adding content around each of the projects that you need to do. There'll be a video, there'll be research. We're going to make that accessible. So as you have downloaded, if you keep coming back to the download, there'll be new uploads to the projects to help you work through those projects, identify those, and communicate those to the board of directors and your executive team. So thanks for watching, and I'll be in touch later next week. Thank you.
Okay. So that was just
Mr. Wilkinson, I think Renee and Victoria needed to be let back in. Victoria said the call dropped out.
okay. How do I get this on my screen? Okay, great.
Good evening.
Who just came in?
Renee.
Okay.
Okay, Renee just came in. Wonderful. Renee, let me just make sure I have you ticked off here. Anybody else came in the last few minutes whose name I didn't call?
Kira.
Kira?
Farquharson. Yes, Kira Farquharson.
Kira. Let's see. Oh, that's Kira. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Anybody else came in along with Kira and Renee? Okay, great. Now, in case you guys may not have noticed, that little
Sorry,
video.
Mr. Wilkinson, Colleen also came in.
Colleen?
Yes, sir, Colleen Etienne.
Okay, let me just make sure I have Colleen. Colleen. Yes. Colleen, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
We missed you yesterday.
No, I was here yesterday also.
You were here yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So I can make that correction then. For some
Yes, sir.
reason, I didn't have Colleen here. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
For you guys, in case you may not have noticed with regards to that particular video, that had a little discussion about one of your examination questions. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Do you know which question that was?
D.
Yeah, question D, the risk-based approach. And for those of you who might still be editing your paper, which you should still be doing, and I hope after these 2 sessions that you will do some further editing. An interesting terminology came up called risk-based approach filters. Remember, he talked about 3 filters, and since your paper is about the risk-based approach, obviously a discussion about these 3 filters should be in there somewhere.
Excuse me, Mr. Wilkinson, what video was that?
Oh, you not. Who said that just now?
That was Renee.
Oh, Renee. Oh, yeah,
Yes, sir.
Renee. We just did a short video about 9 or 10 minutes where Doc was talking about the risk-based approach to dealing with AML, terrorist financing issues. And I was just doing a little recap to remind you guys that it was actually directly related to your question D. And somewhere in your paper, you should definitely be including 3 important aspects of the risk-based approach, because they are fundamental to any exercise in any institution on risk-based approach. The first thing you have to discuss with the risk-based approach is the customer. Who is the customer and why they're important to know about. That has to be in your answer D somewhere. Also have to discuss country risk. That's the thing that you talked about. You need to have that somewhere in your paper.
I didn't hear that second one, sorry.
Country risk.
Yeah, country
Oh,
risk.
thank you.
Yeah. I still hear some noise. Is that noise from my thing?
I think persons need to mute their phone because
Yeah.
everybody's background is coming together and causing us not to hear properly.
Yeah, I'm hearing some stuff.
I think everybody should just automatically mute until they need to speak.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
but remember, mute doesn't mean remain mute. Just jump in when you need to jump in. Okay, feel free. I don't mind. All right, so the first thing you need to consider when you're dealing with risk-based approach is your customer and all the matters relating to your customer. Your textbook is filled with stuff. We can have a little discussion on that a little bit later. Then the second thing is country risk. You have to be finding out, okay, depending on your customer, where they're from, where do they plan to do business. Because remember, you can have a customer who's born in Zimbabwe, but they're doing business in Israel, and they have subsidiaries in the Bahamas, and they have some family members down in South America. If you have such a scenario, know for sure that that is probably not a straightforward situation. So knowing your customer has a whole lot of things attached to it, and those of you who are in financial services have to be able to understand those connections, especially people who are in the compliance and risk management field. The third filter in risk-based approach is what we call products and services. We talked a little about that last evening, where we said that you need to be aware of all the products that your firm provides to customers. A lot of people work in financial institutions and they're not aware of all of the products that their firm provides. The only thing they're aware of is what's on their desk. Understandably. However, for those of us who are keen, and for those of us who are looking to be promoted, and for those of us who are in supervisory and management positions and above, we need to be thinking about these things in very broad terms. What products do we provide? What services do we provide? How can they be manipulated by money launderers, potentially? How can they be manipulated by fraudsters and terrorists? Remember, another one of your examination questions involve a whole lot of fraudulent behavior with regards to the bank's products and services, by the way, in case you didn't notice. It's more common a problem than you think. Okay, folks? Because you don't see it in your environment, it does not mean it is not happening. And granted, if you're a low-level employee, chances are you're not going to be confronted with some of this stuff immediately, but a lot of it you still need to know so that when you're no longer a low-level employee or you see something suspicious, you can act on it. Remember, we talked about that. You have to report suspicious transactions and anything else that seems untoward, no matter what level of the organization you are in. All right. So those are the three pillars with regards to the risk-based approach. Of course, your discussion will be much more than just listing those three things. You have to go into some detail about what those three things represent, how they create risk, and how you can go about mitigating that risk. So all of a sudden, that's kind of one question kind of touched on right there with regards to your paper. And make sure when you're discussing the risk-based approach that you discuss it as clearly and as completely as possible without too much information that you don't need. Okay? I've seen papers in the past where students have written much more than they needed to write. A lot of the answers were not directly related to the question. They did not have anything to do with the who, what, why, when, and where of the question itself, so be careful. Don't add any unnecessary extras. Any questions so far before we move on? Anybody? Okay, great. Does anybody remember where we left off last evening?
Mr. Wilkinson, I have a question about what we discussed just now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pertaining to question D.
Yes.
Because I was taking it from the perspective of what the central bank guidelines stated, and it had 4 pillars actually. What I wanted to actually say was, or what I wanted to ask, the second part of this question states, indicate how each risk indicator affects the rating. What are the risk indicators?
I wonder if any of your colleagues can give us any indication as to what those risk indicators might be. First of all, were you able to find any of those indicators in this Bible?
Well, actually, I didn't. That was the only one I didn't really look at. I was looking at Wolfsburg. I was looking at Central Bank.
Yes. There are some specific references to risk indicators in this Bible. I believe before we're done today, we might see some of them. So stay tuned, okay?
All right. Okay.
And even if we don't cover them in the units that we're doing this evening, it's in there. That means that once we're done this evening, you need to have a cup of coffee and go hunting for them, because they are in there. Yeah, kind of sitting around waiting for somebody to discover them. But I'm glad you raised the question, because what came out of the question is, you know, I've checked all the others, but I didn't have a look at this guy. And you might be surprised. In fact, I can assure you that when you do your check, if we don't touch on it in our units tonight, you will find those risk indicators. Okay?
Yeah, I did see something pointing to risk indicators. I didn't get a chance to read it though before the class started.
Like my son would say, that's what I'm talking about. That. All right, so yeah, there you go. So mark that spot, like X marks the spot, and then you can take it from there. I'm sure you'll find some interesting stuff to help you with that answer. More importantly, thank you very much for raising the question. because not only may you have cleared some things up for yourself, but perhaps for some of your colleagues as well. Okay? All right.
Fantastic.
Does anybody remember where we left off the last time? Anybody? I just want to make sure that I'm not the only one looking in this big old thing.
We was reading something in the chapter 9, remember? That we was reading.
Yeah, Unit 9, okay.
Unit 9, yeah.
Okay, that's not bad. 1 out of 20 remembers that we were in Unit 9.
I was the one who was reading it, Mr. Wilkinson.
I remember. As a matter of fact, you were the one who read that FATF recommendation, right, Senora?
Yes, sir, was me.
Yes, I know. I remember. I'm just hoping that some other persons may have remembered as well. But basically, we had Victoria, for those of you looking at Unit 9, number 1, where we're looking at the international standards with regards to the risk-based approach. I had Victoria read that first paragraph just to get us started on this risk-based approach issue as it pertains to AML and CFT. All right. Victoria, just to warm us up again, can you read that first sentence again so that everybody will now be on the same page and then we can move forward?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, FATF recommendation 1 states that.
Yeah, hold on for me 1 second.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry, it was all down.
No problem.
All the way down.
This is it, the ICA.
Okay, say the international standards and requirement FATF recommendation 1 states that countries should identify, assess, and understand the money laundering and terrorism financing risk for the country and should take action, including designating and authorizing mechanism to coordinate actions to access risk and apply resources aimed to ensuring the risks are mitigated effectively.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So essentially, FATF is saying every country must establish their own risk-based approach using the information and the guidance from FATF and establishing their risk in such a way that resources are applied to those areas where the greatest risks lie and the minimum resources are applied to areas where there is minimum risk. So for example, if there's risk that a trust company can use a trust instrument for illegal purposes, and that is considered a high risk area, then the compliance people, the more senior compliance people might be put to overview and monitor those kinds of products and transactions that are being done, as opposed to maybe if something happens in a low risk area that somebody's handling a little small business and you just need to make sure that they're not inviting any terrorists. You might put a low level compliance or risk person in that area where the resources do not have to be significant and to manage that risk. The idea is with the risk-based approach is to put the resources where it is needed most in order to maximize the return on risk management. That's really the key. Do not put your compliance manager on a low risk area, and do not put your newly hired compliance person who's still in training on some doggone PEP. That's really the idea. All right, and so that's kind of the discussion. That sits in Unit 9, and that all of that reading and all of that reading that you have to read is about. Feel free to read up on all the stuff that FATF has to say. Remember, when I say all, that all applies to those persons like who have time to read all. And then if you don't have time to read all, then you read like key paragraphs. Like start zooming down like this, you know, like key paragraphs like that, depending on your situation. But the one thing you do not want to do is to fail to acquaint yourself with the information at all. That would defeat the purpose. Okay? Look at section 2 in unit 9 that says determining a risk-based strategy and approach. And again, these are just points of fact that I'm bringing to your attention to kind of grease the machine and to give you some insight on the things you should be looking at, not only to answer your question D, but also to keep you abreast of the things you should keep in your mind as you're doing your day-to-day work, especially if you are connected somehow directly, indirectly to these things. And we already said all of us are connected somehow. All right. So what is the strategy? Well, the first thing we should do in terms of the risk-based approach is to go ahead and again, assess the risk in your organization. It always comes back to that. Assess the risk. Find out what risk areas are with your customers, your products, your services, and even your staff. Remember that? Anybody remembers we said staff create a risk?
Yeah.
Yes, because everybody who's walking around you is not as honest as you think they are, potentially. I don't want to accuse anyone because then I may have to end up assuming, and we already had that discussion.
Yeah.
Right? So, but it doesn't mean that we should be oblivious. Remember, which question tells us clearly that we need to watch our staff? Which question that you have to answer?
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2. What were the names of those people? Barbara and who?
Tom.
Tom. Who was the biggest doggone problem of the two, Barbara or Tom?
Tom.
Barbara.
Tom, he knew it.
Tom.
Barbara.
Tom.
Uh-huh.
Barbara ain't know she's supposed to do.
Barbara.
Barbara and Tom.
Barbara was in order. She was supposed to do something.
It wouldn't have been nothing to audit if he wasn't doing food.
Yeah. What Mr. Wilkinson asked, we asked you which one of our staff. Yeah, no.
Keep on going. I said
Tom was just in one of those sections, and he just saying, I see this money on this table. Give me this.
What don't belong to
And
you.
Barbara wasn't doing the
Two
job.
of them. It's the 2 of them, so it's not only one, it's the 2 of them.
Well, who should have? Well, first of all, Tom should not have thought about committing fraud, correct?
Thank you. Exactly.
However, when Barbara discovered that Tom was a bloody fraudster, what should she have done?
She enjoyed that money. Barbara was enjoying that. So
The SCR to the MLO at her.
Yeah, as an internal auditor. Remember now, Barbara was not just any employee.
An auditor.
Barbara was an internal auditor. Now,
Yeah.
those of us who were here yesterday, you will remember I had something to say about those bloody auditors.
What?
Didn't I? What did I say?
Barbara going to jail and getting charged $500,000.
What did I say? What did I say about the external auditors who did not do their jobs properly?
They go to jail.
Or lose their firms, or lose their reputations, and all that. And then now, because auditors have been doing so much ag in their audit responsibilities, the United States government had to implement PCAOB, which is another doggone regulatory body to oversee auditors. Who the hell oversees auditors? Whatever comes from the auditor is supposed to be what? Hello?
Honest.
Whatever comes from the auditor is supposed to be what? Final.
Yeah.
We should not be trying to second guess the opinion of the independent auditor, should we?
No.
No. There's no ifs, ands, and buts, but, well, they gave me money. That was my friend. That's another discussion, isn't it? The bottom line is there should have been no ifs, ands, and buts with regards to the auditor's opinion. Same thing with Barbara. The minute she found out that Tom, Barbara was compromised, wasn't she?
Yes.
Yes, she was really.
Why was she compromised?
Because she
was the wife.
Oh, that person like Freddie, the wife. I'm just teasing Freddie. Yeah.
Man, I guess reach, man.
She was accomplice, and she was guilty of fraud, and forgery, because she have to falsify those documents when she do that
audit report.
auditories.
That audit report.
Exactly.
Now,
And she is guilty of money laundering too.
no question about it. Now watch this. All of a sudden, we have an employee who's a fraudster. We have an employee who is unethical and a fraud and in collusion. The problem is, how did this happen in the first place? Well, they are married employees working for the same
Yeah.
Which means that oftentimes that in itself is
nepotism.
Not not nepotism, but it's a conflict of interest. Okay, which is another side of nepotism. So, and I've been talking about conflict of interest with another class. That's why it comes to mind. But this conflict of interest should never have been allowed by whom?
The employers.
The
company.
Absolutely. The firm should never have allowed that to happen in that context. And even if they allowed husband and wife to continue to work for the same firm, he was in finance, she was in audit. That is clearly a violation of the control mechanism, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Because sooner or later, audit will have to audit home. Finance.
Finance.
Where her husband, who she snuggles with every day like this. What a day. Sooner or later.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to have a problem. If Delilah was able to get Samson to give up that serious
Oh, you can cause these girls turn on us now, Mr. Wilkinson. I'm talking Delilah now.
Yeah, Delilah. Well, I'll tell you a little secret. The reason why I brought up Delilah is that Samson was in a conflict of interest situation as well, in case you didn't know. I just want you guys to know that while you're zooming around just doing the job, all these things are happening around you, whether you realize it or not. Because here's what happened. If Samson was married to a Jewish woman, would he have had that concern about where his strength came from? Probably not. And when he told the Jewish woman, wife, do not ask me that question again, because she's a Jewish woman and she knows the culture, she will get that. But Delilah was not Jewish. Delilah was Palestinian, which means that there was a direct conflict of interest, which Samson got caught up in. So, same thing with Barbara and Tom, same with Samson. There was a direct conflict of interest, not only because they were married, but because she worked in an area that would eventually hook into where he worked, which is two no-nos, back to back, right? So even though he should not have been a fraudster, she should not have been an accomplice, the firm itself was negligent, were they not?
Yes.
Yes.
Allowing so I just want you to see how risk has so many facets and faces. You follow?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. That's really the point I'm trying to make. And this is why it is so important to take what we call this risk-based approach. Because if the firm is taking a risk-based approach, they would say, we don't have any problems that you guys are married, but one of you will not have to be able to work in the department that you work in. You follow? You guys decide, or we decide, or we'll decide, whatever the case might be. But you cannot stay in audit while you are in finance. It's a no-no. That's what that's what we mean by assessing risk and taking a risk-based approach. Okay? All right. Now, once you have assessed your risk, folks, the next thing you have to do is manage it. The decision I told you that the firm should have taken, that is a management decision that they should have taken with Barbara and Tom. Okay? They should have sat down, same page, section 2, and say, okay, we have assessed this situation, the risk. We'll manage it by taking one of them out of one of those departments. But before we do that, we'll determine whether the risk is high, medium, or low, or something that we need to consider at all, non-existent. And then based on our decision on the risk level, we'll decide who will come out of which department and where they will go. You follow, folks? I mean,
Yeah.
Tom and Barbara, but that's really the approach we should be taking to all risk issues in the firm, period. Speaking about risk, I heard the Prime Minister say not too long ago that if necessary, he'll join the other doctors to help with the coronavirus pandemic. My question to you is, should he join them?
No.
Why
No.
You ain't gotta worry about that dying out.
That's just talk say.
Trust me, he taking a risk-based approach to that. He ain't doing that.
Oh, he's taking a risk-based approach. So now this
Yeah,
doggone
yeah.
risk-based thing is beginning to become a reality now. It's not just
Indeed.
academic.
Indeed.
Good. Because if it has gone from academic to reality in your mind, then I have achieved the purpose for which I'm sitting here today. I can almost get up now and go and have a cup of coffee and hang right up.
Too late for a cup of coffee, sir.
It's too late?
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. Tea. By the way, when I told my wife I have session today, she says, "How long is the session?" I'm like, "Until 9." She said, 9?
Mr. Wilkinson, behave yourself.
I know. You pick up my This is 9? Oh my God. Okay. So we assess it, we manage it, and I think you guys are beginning to get the picture. With that in mind, go to section 3, where we have applying the risk-based approach to the strategy. As usual, we have a whole bunch of crap, not crap, but you know what I mean. But it just tells you once
Oh my goodness.
that just comes to my mind.
Applying the risk-based strategy and approach, that one?
Yes, that one. So once you've determined what the risk-based approach issues are, assessing, managing, and all that stuff, then you go to application. And I'm doing it step by step like this. So when you guys get to your questions, say, wait a minute, I need to change this answer around a little bit because now this thing is taking on a different
Which
perspective.
page number is this, Mr. Wilson? Wilkinson, sorry.
Section 3?
I'm on section 3.
Yeah, applying the risk-based and strategy approach. Do you see that?
No, I don't. Actually.
You don't see that heading? Section 3, Unit 9?
Page 369.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry. The reason why I'm not calling page numbers because some people have a different kind of Bible with different numbers. All right.
Okay, thank you.
So how do we make the application? Look right down just under that where it says something about the UK and all that stuff. But essentially it says identify and assess, institute the appropriate systems, determine the appropriate CDD information that you need to get, and take into account all the accounting information, blah, blah, blah. Do you see those 4 points? Those 4 points essentially determine how we apply the strategy. Okay? And again, these are just steps in the process that kind of warm you up so that you can go back and look at your question and your answer and say, wait a minute, did I include some of this interesting stuff in my answer? Does it even relate to my question? And so on. But I think you'll find that some of it does. Okay? Section 4 talks about the benefits of the risk-based approach. I don't know if anybody spoke about benefits in your answers for D. I don't know if your answers require discussion of benefit. That is what you have to determine in your response. Okay, but if benefits are required in your answer, something like you want to say something about the benefits of the risk-based approach, it's sitting right there in section 4. For example, the risk-based approach, especially for regulators even, says it allows management to differentiate between the firm's customers in a way that matches the risk in the particular business. So if you're dealing with a farmer, remember the guy in the YouTube was talking about risk-based approach and the farmer? What the hell does farming have to do with risk-based approach? Well, it has a lot to do with it. Be careful. Do not be fooled by the industry your customer might be in. Some guy might come in and say, all he's doing is raising cows to produce milk to provide the United States and the world with all of the bloody milk they need. Okay, fair enough on the surface. But when you start doing your CDD, and when you start applying your risk-based approach, excuse me, how much money do you have to put into this deal? Oh, 500 million.
Where that coming from?
Kiss my foot. Yeah, like 500 million? Where the hell did that come from? I have to do EDD. See my point? The guy says, well, why are you worried about the 500 million, Mr. Banker, Mr. Financier? I'm borrowing 2 billion. 500 million shouldn't matter, should it? You sure as hell does matter. Where the hell did you get it from? Sir, don't you want to do the loan? Do you know how much interest you can make from this financial deal? Yes, I do know. But compliance wants to know where the hell it came from. That's, well, you don't say customer like where the hell, but you know what I mean. You have to do those kinds of things. And these are the kinds of benefits from taking that approach. As a matter of fact, the minute you discover that you're dealing with a $500 million client who's putting that amount of capital in, you go from the middle compliance officer to the compliance manager and the CEO and everybody at the top. Because $500 million is a lot of money. Okay?
Yeah, it's due diligence.
Absolutely. You can't have any junior compliance officers in that meeting. That's too much. The only person that needs to be in that meeting are top-notch compliance people, senior management, and a board member even. Because that's serious business. That's my point. Okay? But don't call any board members for any lower level thing. Like, should we take a deposit for $10,001? It's over the $10,000, call the board member. Don't call them for that. You see my point? Welcome to risk-based approach. Okay. I think I made that point. I believe.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you turn the page right over from section 4, where there's a little something about business risk. Do you see that? Establishing business risk. Does everybody see that?
That's part of the question.
Oh, it's part of the question.
Yeah, that's exactly part of the question because they say this. Explain the risk-based approach to anti-money laundering and CTF and identify the risk factors that should be considered in determining the risk rating of a business relationship.
Wow. So this crap is relevant.
Yep.
So those of you who haven't looked at the Bible yet, like you just looked at Google or something, you should look at the Bible first, then Google, then FATF, then Thingam and Thingam. Okay? Because a whole lot of this stuff is sitting right in front of you in the same thing.
Mr. Wilkinson, just a reminder, if you just send me the matrix, please.
Sorry, say it again.
You send the matrix, the risk-based.
Miguel emailed it.
Oh, he did.
Oh no, he emailed the video. You mean something else?
Oh, what?
Yeah. So the risk rating for the formula.
Oh.
Different weighting. Yeah.
What you want me to say something about that?
No, you were supposed to send me a copy so I didn't have to buy it.
This is Antonia.
No, it's Alberta.
Alberta, sorry. Doggone it. Alberta, did you send me that email?
While we were speaking last night, yes.
Kiss my foot. What that means, Alberta, is I haven't checked my email yet, which is unusual. However, if you don't hear from me by tomorrow afternoon the same time, send me something again, like call me and say, hello?
Well, then I would need your number.
565.
Hold on, I'm writing. Just a second. Hey guys, this is your chance. Write it down. I'm going to write real close. All right? Y'all ready? Go ahead. 565.
No, I don't not that.
Alberta.
Got the pen, guys?
Alberta.
Yes, sir?
Is this thing that you're doing right now ethical?
Yes.
Okay.
I will call that a survival tool.
Exactly.
Exactly. 565.
Yes.
95. 51.
I do appreciate it.
No problem. What you can do, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours, I should check my email. I usually check it more often all through the day, but today's been weird. Send me a text, hey, blah, blah, blah. This is Alberta.
You.
And I'll deal with that for you. No problem.
And guys, you'll find this a very helpful tool once you start working in compliance correctly.
Yes. Okay. Absolutely. All right.
Jurisdictional risk.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me about that, Alberta. I'm sure it's there. I just haven't gotten into that area yet because of the other bubble.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So the business risk profile, you'll see right there. In order to draw up the firm's business risk profile, senior management. See? Do you see that? Do you see those two words? Not junior management. Does everybody see that? I know it's hard to see if you're not if you read it like this. I know it's
doesn't
what section we are?
Section. We are in section 4 under the benefits of risk-based approach, under the subheading called establishing business risk profiles. For some people, that's on the next page. Does everybody see that?
Yeah. A risk-based approach plays to responsible financial institution and their board and senior management for identifying. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, okay. But the thing I want to point out to you is senior management of an organization will need a sound knowledge of, not junior management, not middle management. You follow that, folks?
Yes,
and the
sir.
reason why that is so important, and you could miss it because it's just sitting in there like 2 simple words out of 10,996 trillion words. But it refers to senior management in particular. One of the reasons why firms are often fined millions and billions of dollars is because senior management will not do what they're supposed to do. You understand that? Not middle management, not compliance management, not audit management, and not junior sub-management of the management sub-management. Senior, that's where all the real problems are. Well, not all, but I'm just saying it for dramatic effect. So that
You watch a lot of cartoon or drama.
yeah, drama. So that those of you who are in senior management, who deal with senior management, who will end up in senior management, you will understand or you will remember today that that's where a big part of the problem is where risk management is concerned. So this speaks specifically to them. Senior management must have knowledge of, 1, the nature, complexity, and governance of the organization. Man, that's a lot in itself, if you really think about it. Number 2, the existing product portfolio. In other words, there's some people on the board and in senior management, they don't even know what products are being sold in their firm. And they don't give any consideration to the risk that certain products are presenting. On the other hand, there are some senior management people who know very well which products are being provided in their firm, and they know very well the risk that those products produce. And they are deliberately not taking any action to fix them because it brings in a whole lot of profits. Does everybody understand that?
Indeed.
So you have some senior management people who don't know, they're ignorant for one reason or another, and there are others who know very well. They are part of the problem. The same problem that compliance people talk about, like, sir, we need to get rid of these debit cards that we send, that we allow people in Zimbabwe to take off money whenever they want. And senior management says, don't worry about them. We have that covered. I'll go back and deal with the regular stuff. On board something.
On board something.
That doesn't mean the problem is solved. I'm just saying that sometimes senior management is either ignorant or complicit. Does that language mean anything to anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. But don't tell them that Mr. Wilkinson said that they are either ignorant or complicit. Because people take things like that personally, especially senior people. when I was a senior person here, there, and everywhere, I didn't take it personally. If my compliance person came to me and said, Mr. Wilkinson, you are ignorant or complicit, I wouldn't take it personally. I would want to know what they mean. So I'd say, Susie or Tom, can you explain? Which is the approach that we should take as senior management so we could find out really what the hell is going on or fix the problem that we may be a part of. I don't see that in the textbook, but that's what the textbook means. You follow me, folks?
Yeah.
Yeah. The textbook doesn't accuse anybody directly, but the information that we're talking about accuses whoever the cap. Okay, don't worry. Okay. So there are a list of things that senior management should know so that the risk-based approach can work. And the reason why it's directed at senior management and not anybody else is because the risk-based approach can only be successful if it's coming from the top. Hello? From the top down.
Management.
Yeah, from the top down. Not the middle up, the bottom sideways. No, It can only work if it comes from the top down. And the top down can only be effective if they are aware of these things. So if you're in compliance, what I'm suggesting you do on the weekend is prepare a memorandum for your senior management and find out if they're aware of these.
Oh, Lord.
Okay.
Straight on after that.
That's
Want
all
more
I'll
something?
say. Sorry?
They can send you straight on after that.
Unfortunately, that's why the problem continues to persist. That's why financial institutions continue to get fined. That's why compliance people continue to be brought into question. Because of the risk that you might lose your job. Because of the risk that a loss of job means a loss of income. Because of the risk that a loss of income means that. Okay. Does that mean, though, that you shouldn't do your job?
That's a good question.
That is the spooky part. Welcome
Don't
to
worry. Once they get audited, sorry, if they get audited and get a negative result, they're going to push you under the bus. You see them there with their face looking shocked. Oh, I didn't know that. How come you didn't tell me this?
That's true. The only problem with audits is that they just write stuff up sometime and then you fix it, and then like the real serious stuff is not really detected or dealt with until some senior regulator boss in there with the doggone manual that you're not doing so, and then they fine you. Of course, your internal audit and external audit people should have already found those things, appraised management, so you can fix them. The truth is, sometimes that does not happen. The other truth is, oftentimes internal and external auditors do tell top management, these same senior people who should know the things on this list. And what do? Ignore them. Refuse to fix it. And then SCB rolls in, central bank rolls in, insurance commission rolls in, and all this stuff. And all of a sudden, there's a huge fine somewhere of millions of dollars. All right? So a word to the wise is sufficient. Please look at section 6, still risk-based approach, identifying and managing specific money laundering risks. So if any of your question has to do with identifying risk, and I believe one of them do somewhere, there's a whole list of stuff. You need to know what risks surround your customers, what risks surround your customers' behavior. Not only should you know your customer KYC, but you should be monitoring your customers' behavior. What other businesses are they in? What other businesses do they own? Who are they affiliated with? Which presidents, monarchies, Xing Jinping, Ling Dongpeng, North Korea, whatever it might be. Sorry. You have to monitor their behavior to find out what they're doing, because their behavior is going to determine a lot of things outside of your normal KYC CDD. Don't say we already ticked the boxes, let's go home. That's fine for today, but you still have to monitor them to see what's going on with them. Okay? Because all of these things are going to be critical to determine not only whether or not you onboard a customer, but whether or not you what? Keep them on board. You remember, you know that, folks?
Yep.
All right. I keep saying a word to the wise is sufficient. Look at 6.2. What is the heading for 6.2? Anyone?
Assessing delivery risk.
Yeah, delivery risk. Anybody bothered to see what delivery risk was? They just said, man, the hell with that. It must be something to do with delivery. Well, since it's part of the risk-based approach, my job is to let you know it's there and to let you know you should have a look at it. You might find something interesting in there that help you with your answer. For example, delivery means, well, what do we mean by delivery? What do we mean by delivery? Anyone? In the very first sentence, it tells you, this means what?
Which a product or service is sold to a customer and the means by which the resulting relationship is managed may also affect the risk posed by the relationship.
My. So, any product or service that is sold to a customer and the means by which. So, if you sell wire services to your customer, that is a delivery method. And how you monitor and manage the delivery of those wire transfers will determine whether or not you will be found wanting organization. That's the point. That's what we mean by delivery. When we're debiting accounts and all this kind of stuff, we're delivering a service. We're moving money around from here to there, to there, to there. When we tell people they can use our debit cards and get money anywhere in the world, who the hell are we giving that privilege to? Regular people, soccer moms, teachers, or terrorists? Or all of the above?
All of the above.
All right. A word to the wise is indeed sufficient. All right. Moving right along. Again, all that detail that you see following is just information to enlighten you on what these different types of risks entail. Of course, you're not expected to put all of those into your answer. You will never meet the word limit if you mess with that, correct? But what you are required to do is find any relevant information pertaining to your question and then put it in summary form. Summary could be a small paragraph. Summary could even be one sentence to include that particular critical point as part of your answer, okay? Just don't put in all of the unnecessary detail that you don't need. All right. Look for me at section 6.4. Still in unit, still in that unit. What do you see?
Assessing geographical risk.
Oh, geo risk. So what is geo risk?
Country risk.
Yeah, country risk. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what they said there. By the way, does Cash and Go have geographical risk involved in their business?
Yeah, international transfers.
International transfer. Yeah. There was another company that did transfers before Cash and Go. What was the name of that company?
Western Union.
Western Union. Now, folks, let me just tell you something that you may or may not know, since you think that this stuff may only be happening in major financial institutions, offshore centers, tax haven countries, and all this stuff. Let me tell you, in addition to the firm that you work for, these things, well, I shouldn't say that. In addition to the firms and financial services, these money companies. Do you have a question on money companies?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No.
No?
No.
I guess a little bit. Internet-based systems.
Oh, internet. So what does Cash and Go use to send money?
Well, yeah, okay.
They don't use the internet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of wire transfer because you can get your money 10 minutes after you.
Yeah, I sure it's absolutely. In some cases, it's faster than wire transfer.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's faster than wire transfer. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And if you go to FATF to see what the guidelines for wire transfers, it's a whole, well, it's in your text as well. It's a whole list of things you need to be aware of when you're making wire transfers. So now we have Cash and Go, and what's the name of the other place?
Western Union.
Yeah, Western Union, who can get stuff there like as soon as you send it and step out the building, it's there. Should they be concerned about money laundering and terrorist financing?
Yeah.
By all means. Because it means that a terrorist could come to Nassau and send money to the Middle East in a matter of seconds. Is that correct? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is. But
Yeah.
they have some controls like now because, well, I used to use that. So based on my experience.
Yeah, I sure still hope so.
They ask you your passport. In my case, I am a foreign, so they ask me for my legal document that says that I'm legal in this country. If no, I cannot send money.
Absolutely.
And they want me to say what is the relationship I have with the person who is receiving the funds.
Yes.
And what's the matter why I am sending this money. Plus, it's a top. There's an amount, the maximum amount that you can send. It's not like you can send any amount.
Absolutely. There's a limit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. So these money entities are not just operating helter-skelter anymore. There once upon a time they used to operate helter-skelter. Not anymore. And part of the reasons for that now is because they fall under financial services in the Bahamas, like credit unions and other banks and companies. So
yeah, Western Union was banned. Recently they came back, but they was banned like for 3 or 4 years almost.
and which company was that?
Western Union.
Yes. Does anybody know why they were banned?
Because they was accused of money laundering.
They were indeed.
Yeah.
So they were out of the market for a while. A lot of Bahamians and residents did not know why they disappeared. They probably thought, something must have happened. But the reason why is because they were accused of money laundering internationally and they had to get back together.
Yeah.
Now I notice they are back in the Commonwealth. Should we trust them?
No. No, we should not.
Welcome to geographic risk. See folks? Absolutely. Okay. Welcome to the topology surrounding electronic transfers and so on. They are very real problems.
Very real.
If you look at the bottom of that same page, they make a reference to the Wolfberg group. Does anybody see that?
Yeah.
Where, sorry, can you repeat?
In very small writing.
Yeah.
The Wolf group. Somebody who can see that bloody writing, can you read that?
Yeah, it says it's a website. www.wolfberg.com/sites/default/files/wbs/pdfs/wolfberg/standards yada yada yada.
Yes, my foot. I guess if we click on that somewhere.
Then you click and that brings you to the Wolfers group and they say Wolfers statement. Guidance on a risk-based approach for managing money laundering risk.
My. So that is not there by accident. For those of you who are curious, when we're done, maybe sometime on the weekend, you might want to click on that website and you'll find some very interesting things. Wolfberg happens to be a major leader in terms of managing money laundering along with FATF and the OECD. As a matter of fact, the central bank sent out a Wolfberg document late last year, and most financial institutions, especially those who are dealing in corresponding banking, had to fill out that 36-page Wolfberg document. For those of you who do not know that, that may have happened at the compliance level or some other level that you're not involved in. But this is how significant these things are. So in terms of your risk-based approach, that might be a site that you want to spend a few moments on, okay? The last thing I want to talk about in that unit, just briefly, is section 7. Please go to section 7. Does everybody see that? What does it say?
Understanding the interrelated business risks.
Yeah, the interrelated, which means that business risks outside of personal risks are not just unilateral, they are interrelated. They oftentimes have all kinds of tentacles. Sometimes we call them the, what are those things with tentacles? The octopus syndrome. Yeah, because of these interrelated business risks. Okay? And each tentacle represents a potential risk. And part of your question has to do with risk. And if you haven't seen or covered all of the potential risk areas, many of them are sitting under business risks right in this section. Okay? For example, it opens up with the type of business risk that we can find out there as we do our jobs, as we answer our questions, and it gives a brief little definition to each one of them. So how fun when you're looking at these different types of risks, you should know they're out there. You should have a general idea. You do not have to remember them all by heart, but you should have some idea. For example, we all know what criminal risk is all about. We all know what regulatory risk is all about. Stop me anytime if you don't. Then there's legal risk, reputational risk. You see all that stuff? Somebody's moving something in the background.
Yes.
Okay. Aha. Perfect. Perfecto.
Good Spanish teacher.
Perdone?
Good Spanish teacher.
Gracias. Tratando. Okay. So we have all these kinds of risks that you need to be aware of. You may not be involved in all of them, but at least you have an idea. Some of that information you might need to help you to give some meat to your question on the risk-based approach. Okay. What do you think compliance risk is? Anyone? What do you think compliance risk is?
Compliance risk?
Yeah. Well, in case you may not have been aware, the risk that we refer to as compliance risk occurs whenever, for example, if a company that you work for, your company, does not have a policy, an anti-money laundering and terrorist financing policy, that represents a compliance risk. Do you understand?
Yeah.
The risk that your firm is not compliant with the rules and regulations. If your firm has a policy on anti-money laundering and terrorist financing, and the policy is not up to date, the last time you updated was 2007, then you have a compliance risk. Do you follow, folks? All right, and so that's what we mean by compliance risk. And all of these risks that are in this section, section 7, gives you a brief explanation on the kinds of risks that you need to know are out there. Okay, credit risk, operations risk, financial risk, all of these kinds of risks are out there. You need to look at them briefly and know what they are. Okay. On the last page of that unit, we are told that there must be a continuous review of all of these kinds of risks so that we can determine for our firms, especially the compliance people, that we are not facing any compliance, regulatory, reputational, legal, or any other kinds of risks. And again, for the compliance people in particular, and maybe even for regulators in some instances, it's important to know these continuous review issues to consider. For example, you should be wondering in your compliance area, for example, whether the procedures for identifying changes in customer characteristics remain satisfactory, and if they are not, change them, update them, change it from the head office in Switzerland to the subsidiary in the Bahamas. Do you follow, folks?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes people are using manuals, for example, that are just copied and pasted from head office, which is somewhere in Waikiki or somewhere, and doesn't necessarily relate to what's going on in the jurisdiction in which they work, whether that's the Bahamas or Cayman or BVI or whatever the case may be. Okay? So we need to be continuously looking at these things, whether or not the vulnerabilities of the various products and service have been removed, so that when regulators and others come in, we are not caught with our proverbial pants down. And the list goes on to include 3 or 4 other very important continuous issue reviews. Any of you who work for compliance, who are responsible for risk, or who are responsible for guiding your management, senior management people in any way, this is just another area that you may want to copy and paste, take a picture with your phone, whatever the hell, and go back and say, wait a minute, are we checking these things? Or you could say, the hell with it. It's only academic. When I finish my answer, that's it. I don't care. That's just for drama. Well, not drama. Just so that you can take it. You don't.
I need ice cream break.
Okay?
I need ice cream break. I'm listening.
Well, actually, if you need to take a break, feel free to do that. But come right back and bring the. I can't get cracked. I'm getting bring whatever it is, and I saw some people on a long line at the crackdown line yesterday and today. So folks are stockpiling, crack count and crack this and crack that. All right, moving right into unit number 10 then. Unit number 10, unit number 11 are interconnected. So we'll just kind of roll along with the CDD and the enhanced CDD. Well, not enhanced CDD in Unit 11, because Unit 11 talks about briefly, but very specifically about another interesting thing. So I'm hoping that I can get through 10 so that I can spend a few minutes on Unit 11 and not just have to leave it to you. Because, not that you can deal with it, but I would like to be a part of that brief discussion on Unit 11. Has anybody looked at Unit 11 yet?
No, sir.
No, hold on it. Right now we're busy with that paper.
Yes.
But that's okay. By the time you get to reading Unit 11, we would already had a discussion like we have with 10 and all the others, and you'll be good to go. Remember, this stuff is not just to get through the paper and get through the course. This stuff is like for you to use, like hit the ground running if necessary. And if you see something at work, even while you're doing your course, say, wait a minute, that's why I'm doing this course. Get your Bible and start looking for stuff. Hey, wait a minute. Something is wrong here. And then you go from there, if you dare. All right. Unit 10, CDD. What is CDD again?
Customer due diligence.
Customer due diligence. Now, the big question about customer due diligence is, what in the world is that? And Jermaine.
Hey.
Oh, just making sure you're there. The married people can be trusted with each other. Jermaine, what I would like for you to do is to read that paragraph which defines, seeks to define CDD. Do you see that?
Well, actually, I don't have chapter 10 in front of me. I'm up to chapter 9.
Oh, you're up to 9. So that means you are running the risk of. So if you were going to take
I only print off who could help me with this paper.
So watch this. At least look at this. Jermaine says, I'm only up to 9. Sorry, but at least he didn't say. He didn't say, to hell with it. That's somebody else. What he sought to do was to mitigate the risk that we would consider him to be unreliable by saying, can somebody else?
I had to explain that. I had to mitigate that.
Yeah, yes. I'm not unreliable. Please, can somebody else read that paragraph? Okay, cool. So let's pick somebody. Let's see, not Victoria. Victoria read already. Jermaine, pick somebody.
Let me look at this list. Why then? From who ever unmute their phone since they coming young?
Yeah, pick a sleeper.
Indeed. Somebody they don't know.
Yeah, somebody you don't know. Because with somebody you know, it's going to present a conflict of interest.
That's right.
Okay.
Question B.
That's right. No Barbara and Tom.
No. Let me see. Who doesn't have their phone muted? I can pick who of their phone muted.
No, for God's sake, it's giving too much.
Right, you see them unmuting their phone now, they reason.
This guy must be in compliance. Or police, one or the other.
Who's this Galaxy 7 phone? Who's that?
Galaxy
J7.
Galaxy
J7. They just unmuted it. I don't know who it is.
Is that the person you're picking?
Kim, that's you?
Kim.
Oh, yes, that's up.
Do you want Kim to read?
This is my teammate. Indeed, I want her to read.
Okay.
I didn't even know.
Somebody looks like they have like something on their head that you put on when you're robbing a bank. Is that true, or is my glasses playing tricks on me?
I know what it is.
Okay, Jermaine, pick your reader. Who's it going to be?
It's Kim.
Kim.
Can you read for us, please?
Y'all can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you read the definition of CDD? The whole thing, the whole paragraph.
CDD comprises the gathering of all relevant information about a customer's affairs. This is the information that enables an organization to assess the extent to which that customer exposes it to a range of risk, including the risk of involvement in money laundering.
Along with all those other risks that we were talking about a minute ago. This risk, that risk, this risk, that risk. You follow? Okay. Sorry.
CDD is often incorrectly referred to as Know Your Customer KYC information. KYC can, in fact, be more accurately described as the customer identification process, which is merely one part of a far more holistic concept encompassing a wide range of information that needs to be gathered, verified, and assessed throughout a customer relationship.
Kiss my foot. Now we have thank you very much, Kim, for that, for letting Jermaine, who didn't have Unit 10.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Jermaine, you are forever in Kim's debt. Whatever she requests of you, you have to provide.
Hey, Glory.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Okay. Now, let me say this. Based on that definition, please don't assume that CDD and KYC are the same.
That's same.
Too many people still think they are the same. KYC is the gathering of specific data for the file. When you've collected all the relevant data and tick all the boxes, you have done the KYC. Okay? The passport that is current, the proof of address. What else do we request for KYC these days? Stop it. What else?
Insurance card. I know.
What else do we require for KYC?
National insurance.
NIB in some cases. What else? Any private bankers can add something, KYC document?
A job letter or pay stub to verify proof of income.
Yeah, job letter or pay stub if you need to verify proof of income.
Address verification.
Address verification, okay. What about if the customer is showing on the application that they have $50,000 on their account. Would you request any KYC for that?
Yeah, source of
Yes.
profit.
Bank
Source of
reference.
funds.
Yeah.
Your source of funds to try and find out where that came from.
Source of wealth. Source of what? Source of what?
Well,
Source of
the other
Well,
thing,
yeah.
we're going to talk about that, I think, a little later, the difference between source of funds and source of wealth. Well, let me talk about it now, and when we come to it, we'll ignore it. A lot of persons are still not clear on the difference between source of funds and source of wealth. And the reason why you're not clear is because the debate is ongoing. However, one of the more significant discussions that have come up lately is that source of funds refers to a case where a customer comes to establish a business relationship and they indicate to you that they have X amount of money sitting in an account or several accounts somewhere. Or if they're an individual, that they earn X amount of money from their jobs or their profession or some such thing. If it's a job or profession, they are required to produce generally verified source of funds, a job letter, a job stub, or some such thing. If it's a business relationship, they're required to produce bank statements to verify source of funds, in some cases financial statements, or both. So that's kind of the general trend towards verifying source of funds. When it comes to source of wealth, it's a slightly different situation. Source of wealth is different from source of funds in that wealth is something that you develop over time. So your source of funds might be $100,000, but your wealth might be 5 million. Do you follow, folks? Because you're developing this wealth from 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Or an inheritance. The famous line, inheritance.
Exactly, you may have inherited it. Okay? So, or you may have wanted, the gambling place is closed. But anyway, you may have wanted gambling or something. Yeah, something like that. So there is the difference between source of funds, source of wealth. And so when we're verifying those two, you have to be careful that we don't ask the source of funds verification when it's source of wealth, and source of wealth verification when it's source of funds. That can cause your customer, if you don't understand it, to get a little pissed off sometimes. All right? But that's kind of like the current thinking about the difference between source of funds, source of wealth, and how to seek to verify one or the other.
And then in most cases, Mr. Wilkinson, this is where you have to, in a lot of cases, in my case, I have to have a voice-to-voice telephone conversation with them. They really don't understand the difference, and you'll find that sometimes on the compliance or application forms, when we ask them the range of funds coming to the account and the source of wealth, they want to know what's the difference. They would put it down to 5,000. You know, oh, I'm only putting in 5,000, but then later on it's $50 million going in. Why do I need to declare 5,000?
Yes.
And so I have to usually have a voice-to-voice conversation with them to explain the source of funds is what's transactional. So the professional service that we get provide for you, that's what we need for what it's going to cost. But your source of wealth is the long-term relationship of this business. How are you going to sustain it? Where did this wealth come from?
Absolutely. And the good thing I like about taking that CDD approach by picking up the phone and making a call. By the way, that picking up the phone, making a call thing is a kind of CDD approach, and in some cases EDD approach, where you're actually talking to the customer.
Authentication.
Yeah, educating the customer, and even in some cases explaining to the customer who may not quite understand the difference or what the difference means to the financial institution. So that's an excellent way to get things cleared up. An email to that effect is also very helpful if you can get something in writing. But sometimes for some customers, you do have to call them, especially if they are high net worth clients who tend to be very finicky and all this kind of stuff. So you want to talk to them, soothe them, reassure them, and don't just send them a cold, stinky email because they are very, quote unquote, sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so on. But that is an excellent way to do that. And then even after doing that, you follow it up with an email to verify the call. These are all good EDD stuff to solidify and strengthen your file and even the relationship with your client. Absolutely. Okay. So this job is not just a tick the box thing like in the old days. Anybody who has any inclination at all about what we've been talking about will see that it's much more than just ticking the box. All right. If you look at the top of the next page, you will see something that says, what does CDD measure? And you get a nice little short list for a change of what it measures, what it identifies, what you understand, and what is conducted. The key being you're measuring your customer and your products, and you're checking your customer on an ongoing basis to make sure that you are on top of their game with them, and there are any changes, you can make the adjustments. And sometimes those adjustments involve throwing the customer overboard, making them walk the plank. All right, and then there's a lengthy discussion about why CDD is required. Most of us know why, because we're just trying to find out who we're getting married to, who we're going to be in relationship with, to make sure that what they tell us is true, that we verify all that we need to. That's really what CDD does. It goes further than just getting the documents. It's verifying. So if you're dating someone and they say that they're Catholic, then you should call the Catholic board the next day to verify that Jermaine Wilkinson is Catholic. And the reason
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes,
Excuse
question.
me. What means DNFBPS?
Yes, my foot, who the heck is that?
Financial institutions and DNFBPS.
Okay, Victoria. I
The designated non-financial institutions. That's like the lawyers and stuff like that.
Yeah, designated non-financial institutions.
Oh.
Okay, in other words, all those organizations that are not normally designated as financial institutions like banks and trust
Credit union.
Lawyers.
Okay. Yeah, lawyers and accountants and real estate people. They are the DNP thing.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question, because there's still a lot of people who don't know who the DP people are, and that they even exist. And even the D people are trying to avoid the fact that they are D people, because they don't want to be recognized as financial institutions, because now they have to go out and do the same KYC, EDD, CDD stuff that the rest of the financial world has to do, and many of the DNP people are not happy about that. But they have no choice now. The whole world is stuck with the patent OECD doggone thing. Okay. Very good question. Thank you very much for raising that, so that all of those persons who thought they were still not within the financial services square, they are. And they are called, what do they call again, Victoria? The D what?
DNFBPS.
Yeah.
It's so long.
Sounds like a curse word to me. So let me just make a note of that, because I want to say something. What is it again, Victoria? The D?
D as Donald, N as Nancy, F as Frank,
Yes.
B as Bahamas, P as Peter,
Yes.
and a little less.
Oh, a little less, yeah. Plural. The little less means there's more than one. Okay?
Oh, okay, thank you.
So the next time somebody gets you mad, just turn around and say, "You old DNFBP."
Jesus.
Small ass.
Say small ass.
And with a small s. Yeah, thank you very much. I understand.
You remember that these people, like lawyers and accountants and real estate people, are called DNFBPs, and that they are part of the financial world as well, subject to KYC and all the other stuff that we're talking about. I hope that will help you to remember.
Yeah, I will never forget this with the small s.
Yeah, with the small s. All right. Of course, the CDC stuff that we're talking about, you don't just CDC and EDD once. You have to be doing it on a continuous basis, as you will see when you get into your reading. If you look at section 2.4, in this particular unit, you'll see the discussion on source of funds, source of wealth. If you are in compliance, or if you're in the legal field, or if you're doing any onboarding at all, or if you're just plain downright curious, I would suggest that you read that section on source of funds, source of wealth. It is one of the current contentions among regulators with regards to financial institutions, including the...
What section is that one, excuse me?
Oh, section 2.4. Section 2.4, do you see it?
I'm rolling to get there.
It says evidence of source of funds and source of wealth. Nobody
Yeah.
else, everybody
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you didn't have any interest before, it's an interesting piece to read, especially if you're in financial services and if you are in DNFBP small s. You should
Indeed.
Because regulators are having a big problem with financial institutions because many financial institutions are either failing to determine source of wealth, source of funds, deliberately forgetting to find out source of funds, source of wealth, deliberately not verifying source of funds, source of wealth, not getting enough information to support source of funds, source of wealth. Okay, all right. I don't want to have a cardiac talking about. I think you get the point.
Well, Mr. Wilkinson, wasn't there an exercise when we with the onboarding of FAFSA or the introduction of FAFSA? There was an exercise. Well, I don't. It's an exercise that most of the banks and or when did the and when is the word is the non-financial institutions came in about 2015, when they were required to have a compliance or now to turn to have a compliance officer and collecting
yeah, I think
KYCs
it was
and
2015.
2015. Okay, yeah, well, back before then, with FAFSA, there was an introduction of FAFSA, this exercise to carry out, and that it was called GAP.
Yes.
And the GAP was where we had to define. That's when we got to understand the difference between source of funds and source of wealth. And in many instances, we had relationships with clients that we had established back in '83, going back as far as '83.
Yes.
We had to then go and get a history on where up to present at that time, so where that money came from, where it all started. And that's when the clarification then. So I don't know what the argument. My point is, I don't know what the argument is all about because going back to FAFSA, that was made very clear.
Yes, actually, man, I'm so happy. By the way, who said that?
Albertha.
Yeah, Albertha, I'm so happy you mentioned that particular point because there are many financial institutions who went back and did the work, like you guys.
Yeah, we did.
You will be surprised to discover that there are many who did not. That's the first problem. So many organizations did not do the work, and there are still some organizations swirling around in the financial services who are trying to get around the requirement depending on which customer they are onboarding. They are sometimes trying to exhibit preferential treatment towards certain clients who do not necessarily want to verify their source of funds, source of wealth for whatever reason. Theoretically, we should have a concern with that. Question comes up, is the concern so great that we tell the customer go to hell? Or is it something that we can just deal with on the periphery, all other things being equal, and still welcome them to the Bahamas? I mean, on board.
Yeah, the politicians that identify their source of wealth.
They have to. Did they?
I don't know if all of them did.
According to them, most of them did after a long time. However, they were also required to publish it in the local newspaper. I think we're still waiting for that publication. Maybe they don't want you guys to see what their net worth.
It is.
Oh, okay. But yeah, well, interestingly enough, that is a source of fund, source of wealth issue, by the way. Yeah, it is. And the reason for that is, if we have Minister Tom Jones or Mary Sue, who when was the last election? 2000 and what was it? Anybody numbers? The last election.
2017.
17. If in 2017, MP John Doe or Mary Sue had a net worth of $23,250, and then 3.5 years later, when the disclosure thing comes out, they have a net worth of $500,000. I'm not saying they did anything wrong. I'm just saying, does that require verifying the source of all source of funds?
Absolutely.
Indeed.
It should be anybody in government who has any assets that does not fit with their income or other business interests, legitimate funds. There should be a question as to where they got those assets from, theoretically.
Who's supposed to be auditing that?
The Auditor General.
And you find that funny, right?
Hilarious.
Hilarious,
Absolutely.
right?
The same auditor, like what's her name? Barbara.
You see what Barbara was doing?
Wow.
He's laying off in a lavish flat.
Well, the question is, why isn't the Auditor General of the Bahamas, who has been statutorily appointed such that nobody can fire him legally, so that he can do his job without fear of losing it, not checking on those persons who have questionable net worth?
Who appointed him?
Well, he's appointed by the Parliament. Doesn't matter. Well, it does. Well. Either way, he's supposed to be an independent. See that word again? Independent. So he should be able to look at any MP or minister's net worth and compare it to some previous period. And if there is an unusual situation, ask them to prove where they got it from. And if they can't prove it, freeze it. And if they can't prove it, put it into the consolidated fund.
That'd be fantastic.
Well, this is just information for you youngsters who might one day become the Auditor General of the Bahamas. How about that? I'm just saying, these things apply to our clients, right, in the financial services, don't they? And they apply to a DMP thing S. And so therefore, if it applies to all those people, then it should apply to all those people, shouldn't it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Makes sense.
My. All right, moving right along. Please go to section 3, the value of CDD. Okay? We've been talking about what it is, how to get it, how to use it, why we use it, the importance of using it. Now we look at the value. Why does it have value? Why do we do CDD at all? All right, and who read the last time? Kim, can you pick a reader, please? Doggone it. There is a little case study in there, and I want somebody to read that case before we move on.
Okay.
Kim, pick someone, but you can't pick Jermaine. Oh, and you can't pick Victoria.
Why can't I pick who?
Jermaine or Victoria?
I'm gonna pick Alberta.
Alberta?
Yeah.
I think because you heard my voice, you know, I love you too. Okay, what am I reading? An example?
Alberta, you won't hold it against her, would you?
Pardon me?
You won't hold it against her for picking you.
Absolutely not. I read half my life.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay. Great. Look at section 3.
Mm-hmm.
It says, consider the following case. Well, it says example, but it's a case. You see that?
Okay. Yeah. Typology to be exact.
Yeah, topology. And the reason why I'm so thankful that you mentioned that word called topology, because I think topology showed up in one of your questions, didn't it?
Yes.
Which one was that?
I think it was C.
Yeah.
Was it C? I think it's C. Yeah.
Whichever one, it shows up.
Okay.
So now we have something
So here it
else.
goes.
Something else showing up. Okay, Alberta, let it rip.
Okay, so failure to use CDD information. A corporate service provider manages and controls a customer company that its files shows was set up for investment holding purposes.
Okay,
3 years after, pardon me?
Go ahead, 3 years.
So 3 years after its incorporation, the company enters into an agency agreement for the procurement of contracts and receives large commission payments. No questions are raised by the CSP, which fails to take account of the CDD information on its own files that indicates that the company was not set up to trade. It later transpires that the agency's activity was illegal and that the commissions received were the proceeds of crime. The director of the CSP are asked to explain why they did not regard it as unusual for an investment holding company that they were managing and controlling to begin trading. They are not able to provide an acceptable explanation.
Thank you very much, Alberta. I think for most of us, that case speaks for itself. If we were given that case to present or to write up, I think we can find a lot of things that we can tear apart in that case.
Mm-hmm.
Germane and fundamental to that case is making sure that your CDD, EDD, KYC stuff is complete. No half-stepping, no doggone taking shortcuts. When you're dealing with issues, you must make sure that you complete your verification process to the very end.
And Mr. Wilkinson, I'm sorry.
Yeah?
For this year, on the page, just looking at it, it was set up as a holding company, investment holding company. And then we have section 67 of the Companies Act, where we're supposed to have some type of accounting declaration that they forward to us, whether we are ROA, act as ROA or not, that we're supposed to get some idea of the financial year of the company.
Absolutely.
That and keep that on our book.
Absolutely. And that's part of the CDD process that is a continuous process. And the reason for that is so that we can make sure that things are what they're supposed to be and that they are, they're happening on a consistent basis. And if anything happens contrary to the norm, see? All right, folks? For those of us who are involved in account monitoring and have responsibility for oversight and all this stuff, it's very serious to monitor clients, especially multi-billion-dollar clients who are doing stuff all over the world, gas and oil, import, export, and all kinds of stuff they say they're doing, to make sure that they're not doing any business transactions that are inconsistent with what they say they would be doing in terms of product, services, and even dollar values. Because if you see anything inconsistent, you have to take action to find out why. That's why, for example, when you go to a financial institution, they say, what is your expected level of business per month? And then you'll say, 10 million. And so the financial institution is expecting to see stuff that go up to 10 million, they might tolerate 11, and they might rise to 12, and then after that, they have a problem. If 20 million comes in, they have a big problem. If 50 million comes in, they're calling the cops maybe. Sure as hell gonna call you. Sure as hell should call you. Sure as hell in trouble if they don't call. Do you follow? To find out why there's a big swing in the normal business. Okay? I know for sure, and for example, in my case, I'm the kind of person who does things the same way kind of all the time, very predictable. So, for example, if I'm doing something untoward, my wife will probably figure me out in a hurry because she already knows my schedule. So just like the customer, if I come home 7 instead of 6, she's going to start conducting a major CDD thingy. Just like make sure she does that. And guess what? Here's how she says, here's how she comes on with the CDD. Hi, sweetie, how was your day? I'm like, fine. She says, you know it's 7. I'm like, uh-huh. She says, you had a meeting? Sort of. The meeting took a little longer than usual. I said, you can say that. She said, oh, okay. But that's whether she's aware of it or not, she's doing CDD thingy thing. Same thing I'm telling you guys. Okay? And that's what we need to be doing with our clients on a regular, consistent basis. Otherwise, you might be in for what?
Awakening.
Absolutely. Same thing on my end. For example, if I'm used to coming home at 6 and I bust in at 1 a.m. and she doesn't say anything, I'm in big trouble because like I know I'm in trouble if she doesn't say anything. Like, yeah.
Mr. Wilkinson,
Hi.
speaking for myself, I'm wondering if the Bahamas Institute of Financial Services is making any representation to the ICA in terms of the second assignment and its due date, because are they also going to extend that due date by 2 weeks as well, based on all of the circumstances?
Interesting. Who am I speaking with?
Anishka.
Anishka, thank you for that excellent question. What I suggest you guys do, Miguel, are you there? Miguel left before the question. Anishka, what I suggest you do, it's an excellent question. I suggest, I will personally check into it, but I will suggest that you guys send an email to Miguel and Letitia and raise the question.
Okay.
And while you're raising the question, do a little like EDD action. While you're raising the question, make a suggestion. How's that?
Okay, certainly.
Yeah. So while you're raising the question, then they said, I would suggest that since this happened, we extend it for further 2 weeks because since this is Corona time, we want to make sure that we balance the whole thing and that nobody is disadvantaged at the end of the day. How's that?
Okay, good.
Yeah. So I suggest you do that like this weekend. Don't procrastinate. Like some people who are supposed to do some CDD thing, some verification, and they say, oh, I'll do it next week. And between now and next week, all hell breaks loose.
Okay, great, thank you.
I know. I made that a little dramatic too, for a reason. So that you don't procrastinate, you send it out quickly and to Miguel and company so that they can get on it right away before they make any decision to the contrary. How's that? Absolutely. Good question, Nishka. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure your colleagues will love you for that one. Section 4, please. Go to that section for a moment. It talks about another very hot topic in the Bahamas, and it's called the UBO. Who's the UBO? Anyone?
Ultimate beneficial owner.
Yeah. Anybody had to deal with UBO issues at all lately?
Yes, and the former boss.
Yes. If an individual comes to open up an account for themselves personally, who would be the UBO? The individual.
Yeah.
If a company comes to open up an account and there's one director, one CEO, and one person, a one-person company, who's the UBO?
The one person.
The one person. However, If somebody comes to establish a trust with your trust company and they bring you an organizational chart with 15 layers, who's the UBO? Oftentimes we don't know. We have to find out by digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and digging and digging until we finally come up with who we believe UBO is. Correct? So, did somebody fall down? Just checking. So if you have a client who comes in, it's not an individual, not a simple company, and it has, especially if it has many layers, 2 or more, your job as compliance, as a financial institution, is to find out who the ultimate beneficial owner is. Doesn't matter what you think and how you feel. It's now a requirement. Not only is it a requirement that we now have to place it with the Attorney General's office in a file. Do you know that? Did you guys know that?
Yeah, this is a process that we are doing with the Ministry of Finances.
Ministry.
It's a process that we are doing online to put the beneficial owners for some companies here now.
Yes, yes.
My bank start to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Every financial institution in the Bahamas has to list its beneficial owner with the Attorney General's office, and they will.
Boss. Boss.
Yeah, BOSS, BOSS. All right.
Yeah.
They will keep that information. They say safe and sound, but the point. But the point is, we are legally now required. You do not have a choice. And eventually, if you don't sign up or you do try to hide any UBOs, regulators and others will be coming after you with the full power and strength of the Attorney General behind them and the regulatory organization itself. Okay? So if you haven't done that exercise, if you haven't started, let me let you know now that every organization has to determine who its ultimate beneficial owner is. The reason
March 30th was the deadline, right?
The old deadline.
Okay.
I'm sure Corona.
It's been extended because of Corona.
Yeah, I'm sure Corona is that. Anybody knows what the new deadline is? Is it indefinite?
I'm not sure if they have a set date yet.
It's hard to set a date.
Yeah, it is. But I've completed. I wish I'd known about that.
But I know
extension
they've
before it was done.
given, but they've given access to persons to play around with the system in the meantime.
Absolutely. So those of you who work for financial institutions, even if you don't work in that area, when you go to work on Monday, say, excuse me, are we done with boss? And they'll be like, what the hell do you know about boss? Get the hell to your desk and do what you can do. Nobody need boss. Well, I don't know what we hire him for. Any we want boss. Okay. But yes, that is, and the reason for that is companies need to do this, financial institutions, because we want to make sure that we do not have any money launderers in our organization, terrorist financing people in our organization, fraudulent people in our organization, pedophiles in our organization, human trafficking people in our organization. None of those people. That's why you want to find out who the ultimate beneficial owner is. So if you're doing this job in your organization and you dig through a couple of companies and you finally get to the ultimate beneficial owner, Brent Simonet, what do you do? Maybe nothing, or maybe everything.
So he strikes out.
The point is, somebody's be the devil's advocate. That's me. The point is, you need to know, no matter how many layers are in that organizational chart, who ultimately owns all of those companies. You get it, folks?
He is definitely the UBO.
Who? Who's
you call off, Brent Simonet?
Yeah. Under like how many companies? We don't even know.
Nah, so.
Yeah.
I
like that. Yeah. So, and then Be similar.
Everything, just now, so.
Doggone it. I love it. All right. Share ownership, 100%.
100%.
100%. My God. I think that means that we understand the importance of the UBO issue. The UBO issue has to be transparent. You have to be clear. You cannot lie. You cannot try to get around the system. Whoever it turns out to be, if it turns out to be Escobar, so be it. If it turns out to be your Uncle Sidney, so be it. You cannot cover it up. Don't be a Barbara and Tom. Don't be any of that. Just do the job.
Barbara and Tom. But they just want a natural person. Don't put any layers of legal structure. They want a natural person.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, they want a human being.
Human being, yeah.
Person who owns all of it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if they're nominee companies? You have the structure held by a trust, that kind of arrangement?
No problem. We just keep working up. Keep going. Yeah, nominee held by the trust and held by another trust, by 17 other trust sisters, by a couple other nominees. That's okay. As long as by the time you get to the end of it, like the Rumpelstiltskin, keep climbing until you get to a person. And then you say, Brent, what the hell are you doing here? And they say, I'm the UBO.
Yeah.
How the hell did you find me? And
So you're telling me that no nominee companies can be listed on BOSS?
No.
And if one is allowed to be, it would have to be a quote unquote an approved doggone nominee. And I don't even want to go there.
Okay.
Because even an approved
Blair, is that you?
Is a little spooky.
Yeah, BDO published, I don't know how many questions got it. They are the administrator for the BOSS exercise.
Yes,
They just published an article or something, and how many layers, where do you stop? And if you go on their site, I don't know if it's on the site, Mr. Wilkinson, but they had, that was one of my questions as well, the nominees, and they said absolutely not. And actually, they made reference to that article.
They said absolutely not.
No nominees.
No nominees.
No nominees. Absolutely.
Yeah, natural person.
Absolutely. All right.
They don't have a heart to beat. They don't want them.
No doggone quote unquote nominees either. But the minister approved it. The minister of what? The point is, no nominees. Okay, folks? And don't let anybody try to persuade you otherwise. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yeah. I think we beat that bloody horse to death. But it's an important horse. It's an important horse. Like source of funds, source of wealth, it is more important than not more important. I guess maybe equally as important as source of funds, source of wealth, this UBO thing. Because UBO is the place where criminals have been hiding for centuries. How's that? Now, they cannot hide. At least unless somebody helps them to hide for a fee. And that would be spooky, because anybody who is found aiding and abetting any UBO that's trying to hide will face penalty. How about that? All right. If you go to section 6, it talks about PEPs. I'm not talking about no bloody PEPs anymore. All I can say to you about PEPs is know who PEPs are, know who fall under PEPs, know that anytime there's a PEP issue coming into your firm, that you should pep it up to senior management with their recommendations and let them sign it off. That's what you should do. And if they ask you who the hell tell you that, just tell them a very a nominee.
Yeah.
And then they'll want to they want to know who's behind the nominee. Go ahead and tell them my name, and I'll be happy. Give them my number even.
Because we all have it.
I'll tell you a little secret that you'll realize later on. When I was younger, like afro, black hair, and my children were growing up, and certain things came up, I always had to look at the situation and then look at my babies, and look at the situation and look at my babies, and think, how would my decision in this bloody firm, this firm I work for, impact the livelihood of my children? And then I look at my babies looking at me like, Daddy, Daddy. I'm like, oh, muddo. So
10 more years. 10 more years.
Yes. So certain things that I would have taken a hardcore approach on, like, I still took a hardcore approach, but like a lesser hardcore. And then, because I have to think about the welfare of my children. But don't bring me nothing illegally and off the wall now. Just bring me something we could discuss theoretically and logically and all that. No, don't bring me no crazy stuff. Otherwise, me and my children have to starve to death. But I'm just saying that to say, I get it. Now that my children are grown up, you could give them my name and my phone number and let them see it so I could bloody verify it. No nominees. And hang up the phone because I don't have to worry about my what anymore. Children.
Oh my God.
Okay. So when you see a PEP, know a PEP, be able to identify the PEP, their family members, their close friends, sweethearts. Remember, if a PEP sweetheart comes to you, you cannot, they are PEPs, correct? No answer? Nobody thought about sweethearts. I know. That's the danger. She's gonna come in and says, I'm Marguerite. And then you're like, do you know Mr. Johnson, the PEP? She says, just a little. And so, if you're a compliance guy, you need to go CDD, that just a little. Like, what the hell does that just a little mean? And start checking stuff. Like, they hear just like, just a little what? When? Where? Like that. Like, you don't have to do it. You could let her slip. But she might be the one that drowns you. If she's connected to what? A PEP. Because if she is a drug dealer's girl, like one of 17,350.
Oh my God.
That's so much girls when we deal with drug dealers.
I just told a number.
It's ridiculous.
Just beware.
That's ridiculous.
It is. Just beware of PEPs. Okay? Not all PEPs are bad. Not all PEPs should be turned away. But not all PEPs are good. Not all PEPs should be onboarded. Not all PEPs should be kept. Your job in financial services is to decide who to onboard, who to keep, and who to discard without losing something. And even if you're going to lose something, you have to lose it. Because if you don't lose something on one side, you're going to lose something where?
On the other.
Now, all of this stuff is not directly in the textbook, but the information, the academic information in the textbook does suggest that these are the things that will happen if you do not adhere to the rules. Let me just say one other thing while I'm in this particular unit, and it's called Correspondent Banking. Is anybody online involved in corresponding banking of any kind?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we survive without correspondent banking?
No, I can't.
No, none of us.
No.
We need those correspondent banks. And the correspondent banks that we do business with, you have to make sure that they're doing CDD, KYD, due diligence, UBO, QBO. Do you follow? Because if they egg and lose their corresponding banking license, that can hurt some of us in this part of the world, correct?
Yes.
Big time. In fact, if it might be so bad that might put some financial institutions what? Out of business because they've lost their corresponding banking affiliation. And it's like the water in the well. We take it for granted until the well runs what?
Dry.
Mother's sick. See my point? So we have to be careful. Don't downplay the issue of correspondent banking and their importance to what we do. Okay. Has anybody ever heard about SDD, like the opposite of EDD?
Simplified due diligence.
Yeah. Excuse me. Let me just. I didn't. Not STD. SDD. Okay. Somebody said simplified due diligence. Don't mix it up. Don't tell anybody I was discussing venereal diseases. That I will deny. Okay? So, what then is SDD? Anyone? SDD, what is it?
I guess you could use that instead of, that's the opposite of enhanced due diligence.
Yes.
It's a low risk situation.
When the risk is lower.
Low risk versus high risk. So yeah, low risk individuals, you will simplify due diligence.
If you're dealing with low risk customers, don't waste time with no EDD and all that crap. Use your SDD policy. If you don't have one, you can write one from here. And be the star. Well, you'll either be the star or something. They start hating you. Like, who the hell's picking Alberta again? Writing up policy. No, that's what they're saying. If you don't have an SDD policy for your firm, you can write one up.
Okay, Mike. I didn't hear you. I didn't hear that. My thing's off of my ear. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Better.
Yeah, I'm saying. Somebody fell down again? Okay, great, they recovered. I'm saying, if you do not have an SDD policy, somebody like Alberta, Jermaine, or somebody, Janelle, somebody can write one, and you can either go online or you can use your text or both, because the SDD policy can save you a lot of time. Why spend a lot of time and resources, see, risk-based approach, why spend a lot of time and resources using EDD and all that stuff to deal with a what? SDD client. You follow, folks? Set up a policy where if it's a low-risk client, there are certain things you do. You don't harass low-risk clients with all the same things that you harass high-risk clients with, and PEPs. You follow the point? And so the rest of that discussion almost for the SDD is the same as the EDD. It's just that it applies to what? Lower risk customers. That's all. There's still a lot of organizations that are still used to doggone ticking the box. When they get a low risk customer, STD, they're beating them to death with the EDD policy. And the customer is screaming like, what the flick? When in fact, all you need to do is ask them a couple of basic questions and onboard them. And everybody's happy. Do you follow, folks? In case you didn't hear about STD before, ever in your life. All right. The other thing you need to be thinking about in this unit, under CDD, we have something called third-party information. Whenever you get information from third party, do not accept the information as gospel, unless maybe it's coming from your head office. And even then, depending on what it is, don't believe everything your head office tells you. They don't always tell you the truth. They're not always up to date, and so on. Still check the relevant stuff. Certainly, if you get information from third party that's not head office or some such affiliation, check it, check it, check it. Do not take somebody's word for it. And the only other thing I wanted to mention in this unit is the issue of data protection and record keeping and retention. Anybody never heard about those words before? You've heard those words. All right. Well, we all know that there's a law protecting data. Don't tell people any information that is not their business if you're in financial services. No matter what they tell you, no matter what they pay you, no matter what their relationship is to you. That's really what it's data protection is all about. Okay? Firms are required to keep information for how many years these days, roughly?
7.
5 to 7
years.
5 to 7.
Depending on it all depends on the type of relationship or structure, or if there are any litigations or anything being held against it.
The law usually doesn't require you to go over 7 years. and requires that you don't keep them, that you hold on to them for a minimum of 5 to 7 years.
5 years.
Some organizations may want to hold it forever. Is there any law against holding it forever?
Yeah.
You get penalized for holding it forever?
I think so. No. Well, no. I think it's a disservice to the company decides to hold it. And I always say to those higher up, why are you paying rent for someone who never lives here or sleeps here anymore? They don't live here or sleep here. Why are you paying rent for them? So it's wasted real estate as far as I'm concerned, holding on to old documents.
Absolutely. It's a waste of real estate. It's a waste of resources. And certainly, if the customer is shut down, going to prison, died, or went to hell, whatever it is, then you should remove them. Remove them from the file and create some new space.
That's what I say.
Unit 11 is just the final unit I want to say something about. It's a short unit. You can read that all on your own. The only thing I want to mention about this unit is that it deals with something we call escalation and exit. Escalation has an interesting definition. I have one more reader before we end the evening. Who read last?
Alberta.
Alberta, you need to pick somebody who has not yet read.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Colleen.
Who?
Colleen.
Colleen, are you there?
Hi, I'm here.
Great. Colleen.
Maya, chill out.
Okay, so.
Colleen, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. Alberta has picked you to read a little paragraph for us.
Okay.
Somebody's still moving. That's Colleen moving to me?
No.
Okay, great. Unit 11, Colleen, section 1, that says escalations and exits.
Okay, no problem. Let me turn there.
Yeah, can you read those 1, 2, that whole page for us? Today's your day. You are starring. Because you are the one who's gonna encourage me and help me to close out this session. But we need you to read that page.
So pretty quickly then.
No, you don't have to read it quickly. Just read.
So under the responsibilities of senior management.
Wait a minute. Section 1, Unit 11.
Oh, no, sorry. That's section 1.
Unit 11, section 1, the beginning.
Escalations and exits?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll start now.
Excellent.
Okay. The 2 controls, escalation, reporting an issue to a higher level or authority for approval or a decision to senior management for review and approval, and the decisions to exit a relationship or a transaction are separate but related. They have distinct and different functions.
Keep going.
Escalation to senior management for review and approval is an internal control which can be operated to manage the detection of risk.
Okay.
Okay, the specifics of the controls may not necessarily exist in regulation or legislation. It is a natural byproduct of ownership by senior management of money laundering and terrorism financing risk. If senior management is responsible for the quality of customers and the type of transactions that are accepted, it follows that higher risk customers and transactions should be escalated to the relevant people for specific approval to allow them to acquit that responsibility.
The word to the wise is sufficient. Sufficient. Keep going.
Okay, escalation may be used as a control in the following circumstances.
Okay.
A threshold or trigger has been reached in relation to a customer or a transaction so that, in line with internal risk mitigation practices, senior management must approve or reject the customer or transaction concerned. The threshold or trigger may relate to the presence of a risk indicator for that customer or transaction, or stem from a risk scoring process that has been used to assess the customer or transaction.
Thank you. Stick a pin 1 second for me. Folks, in case you didn't get it already, a whole lot of many units have kicked in these few short sentences that she has read. First of all, escalation means any PEPs or other high risk issues or anything that's questionable, take it to top management for approval or rejection. Don't take it upon yourself to make that decision. That decision should be made at the top, okay? The top management is responsible for onboarding ultimately, even though you guys are doing the work, they are ultimately responsible. So any risk clients of any kind, and any clients that you have any doubts about, do not sign on those bloody documents about you taking the initiative. Take it up, let them sign it. It's an inherent control feature, which is a very fundamental feature. Notice we are told it is not necessarily guided by any regulatory process or otherwise. It is inherent that since top management is responsible for clients, that anything that is risky and out of the box, you take it for them to approve or reject. Okay, thank you. Keep going.
Okay, a suspicious matter report, SAR/STR, of a certain nature has been lodged with the Financial Intelligence Unit,
Yes.
such that internal policy requires senior management approval for maintaining a relationship into the future with that customer.
Indeed. Keep going.
There is a regulatory expectation, for example, in the UK, the establishment of new correspondent banking relationship must be approved by senior management.
Absolutely. Keep going.
Okay. Management will always want to be involved in decisions to exit relationships because this has a direct impact on the firm's ability to generate profits.
Stick a pin 1 second there, because this is now the exit side. Why is it the top management is interested in the exit side? Because they want to be able to decide before you close the account, before you guys get rid of the client, before some lower level, low life employee. How's that? Because that's what they're going to call you if you take it upon yourself. I don't really mean that, quote unquote. But the point is, they want to make the final decision as to whether the firm should lose that customer or not, especially if it's a high wealth management person, a client that's doing multi-billion dollar business that could hurt the company's position financially and certainly its bottom line. Top management will always want to be involved in any exit decisions before you tell the customer, carry your money laundering tail or something. Okay? Even if it's so, let top management approve it. Don't say, look, sir, we didn't bring it to you because as the compliance manager, executive involved for compliance, I thought that I would exercise my judgment because I'm certain that this particular person is a bloody launderer. You might be right, but you might end up unemployed as well if you don't take such a person to top management for approval before you get rid of them. Okay, keep going.
Okay, management will not willingly allow compliance or operational risk functions to have sole authority over exit decisions.
Kiss my foot, compliance people and thing of them. Okay, keep going.
This is a correct position for management to adopt since managers should know their market, products, and customers better than those working in compliance or operational risk.
Kiss my foot.
It is easy to see the two-way relationship between exit decisions and escalation to management.
My. And then finally,
A request for an exit decision on careful review may lead to senior management approval for retaining a higher risk relationship under stringent controls or performing more due diligence in order to reach a position of comfort about certain transaction.
Yes, and finally?
Alternatively, an escalation to senior management for approval of a higher risk transaction may lead to a decision to exit the customer entirely.
Thank you very much. Now, folks, let me just say this as my final salvo for my lecture for this evening. And then I want to take 2 minutes before you go to say 1 or 2 things about your paper and to take any questions you might have about the paper. But before I say anything about the assignment, let me say this. After all that stuff we talked about from unit, whatever that was, right up to now, at the end of the day, if you have a PEP or high risk customer, take it to your senior management, let them make the decision. If you want to even if you're in charge of compliance, you're the executive director of bloody compliance, risk management, whatever, it doesn't matter. Unless you're at the board level or senior executive management level, even if you are, you still have to take it to your colleagues and say, guys, I'm uncomfortable with this. We need to have this customer exit our books or whatever the case might be. Let the top management, even if you're a part of it, make that decision and you sign off as a group so that everybody's on the same page when it comes to escalations and exiting clients. Notice there's a little piece in there that says the reason why you escalate is you give top management the opportunity to say, hey, I have some inside information about this client that you don't have. Check this, this, and this. See whether or not there are any problems there. If not, then we can potentially still go ahead and do this thing. Put these restrictions in place so that we don't leave ourselves open to this, and this type of risk. Does that make sense, everybody? Something to think about if you are ever in a job position in compliance or risk or otherwise where you have a situation that needs to be escalated or exited, God forbid. Because remember what exit is like. Exit is like divorce. It's the final conflict. And top management, especially for high net worth clients and customers who they have big business with, they don't want to see them exit unless they absolutely have to. Many big banks, for example, have suffered huge fines because they continue to do business with clients whom they knew they should not be doing business with. Somebody suggested yesterday, maybe they do this simply because the profits they make is more than the money that they are fined. All right. Any questions then on our lecture for today in any area? Okay. Again, if you think of anything along the way before your final submission, or even if you get up screaming in the night you need clarification, send me a text and I'll respond. Let me just say a couple of things about your assignment, and then if you have any questions that you'd like to raise, I'll take them, and then we'll all go off and have a drink of whatever we drink. Somebody said I shouldn't drink coffee. I agree. That means I'll be up until tomorrow morning. All right. Question 1. Here, I'm just going to tell you some of the things you should be thinking about doing. I can't give you any answers, but I can kind of dissect it a little bit so that you can determine if you left out anything, if you're on the right track, if you have considered everything, if you failed to consider something. Okay? So question 1, you should make sure that you briefly describe the popular types of web-based payments. No detail. Just let your reader know that you are aware of what they are. They mention a couple. Refer to them directly. If there are any others that you come across on Google or other research, include them so they can see that you added 1 or 2 names other than what the examiner gave you. and give a brief description as to what the web-based payment system is. Also, you should make sure that you describe all those international measures that are taken to minimize. You may not necessarily give an exhaustive list or description, but your description should be as complete as possible with as many issues on an international basis as possible to minimize the impact, so that they're clear that you understand the process. And then finally, you must discuss any measures that are taken to do two things. One, to detect, and two, to prevent abuse. So when you're answering that question, you need to go and look for specific information, specific measures that will help financial institutions to detect and prevent the abuse that the question raises. Does everybody get that?
Yes.
Okay. Question 2. Be sure you choose a jurisdiction. Make your choice clear. Do not answer the entire question and they're not sure which jurisdiction you're dealing with. You might lose points for that, because now they have to pick a jurisdiction, they don't know which one you're talking about, and they're not going to guess. So if 2 points are allocated for indicating the jurisdiction and you don't say clearly what it is, you can lose valuable points. Let me tell you something about the Brits. You don't want to lose any points with them. Okay, they mark a little bit differently from American examiners. And I'll say American examiners are easy peasy. I am saying that the Brits have a history for being a little more stringent than their American counterparts. You get my drift? All right. So make sure you choose your jurisdiction. Number 2, make clear your reference to the law in your chosen jurisdiction. Make sure you evaluate and discuss the ML offenses clearly. Make sure it's clear so that they understand nothing is rolling over into the other thing and overlapping into something that shouldn't be there and all that stuff. Keep it all connected to the law in your jurisdiction. Make sure the law or laws are indicated specifically and the discussion centers around those laws. You might be happy to find that, or not so happy to find, that once you indicate the jurisdiction and the law that you're dealing with, they might actually go back to check to see if it's correct. So don't make up something and don't LIE about something. All right, number 3, make sure you consider the elements for each of the offenses, not just one. If there's only one, fine. If there are several, make sure you indicate several. If there are 17, indicate 17 briefly, okay? Make sure you cover that area. Consider also any wrongful acts, and they told you under the act, under the law, what you should be considering. Make sure you indicate them clearly. And then finally, consider the guilty state that they want you to consider and make direct reference and make it clear what your consideration is so they understand that you understand what they want you to understand. God forbid. All right? It's a little blah, 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 but make sure you cover all of these areas as clearly as you could within the required word limit, okay? Number 3, provide a brief history of FATF, I would say, the role of FATF in combating terrorist financing from 2001 to 2018. Not long, 2-3 sentences max. So just that you can bring it into 2018, February, where the new stuff came in, and pick up your discussion from there. But the introduction would let them be aware that, hey, I'm a little bit aware of the 2001, 2018 period. Okay? When you're discussing FATF's role in combating terrorist financing, please make sure you outline each of the main topologies for terrorist financing. It's in your textbook pretty clearly if you've looked at it, and in other places on FATF website. Make sure you indicate those topologies as clearly as you can, but briefly. Don't go into long, drawn out, summarize it. as briefly as you can. Also, make sure you discuss the challenges of identifying these topologies. What are the challenges? And the textbook has some very good stuff about the kinds of challenges that you will face in identifying these topologies, okay? I have a little hint to help you with identifying the challenges. For example, they told you in the body of the question that in practice, it is difficult to distinguish between topologies and how they impact, because sometimes legitimate methods are used to raise funds as well as illegitimate methods. So for example, some terrorists have churches raise money for terrorism. They have charities raise money for terrorism. They have many legitimate entities that are raising money, but a lot of the money is going to terrorism, sometimes unbeknown to the organizations who are raising the money, okay? So that's kind of a hint to give you some indication as to some of the reasons why it's difficult to identify these challenges in practice. And then finally in D, make sure you explain exactly what the risk-based approach to AML CFT is without going on forever and ever. Amen. We discussed it earlier. They gave some interesting stuff, some good stuff you can use in terms of trying to define it. Use that information as succinctly, but as clearly as you can. Also, identify all the risk factors. We talked about risk factors from here to eternity that you need to consider when determining risk ratings. Be mindful that you do want to say a little bit about risk ratings, that there's the typical high, medium, and low, what they represent in some form or fashion without going on forever and ever, because you do not have a direct question on risk rating. It's all about identifying the factors, but do say a little bit about the risk ratings, all right? That question also requires you to identify and indicate how EACH, each risk indicator, affects the rating. So once you look at the indicators, you look at that indicator, geographical area, doggone Nigeria, high risk because a lot of doggone scams come out of Nigeria. Whatever the case might be, you have to identify and indicate clearly how each of these risk indicators that you discovered earlier above impact the rating in terms of high, medium, or low, or otherwise if you have otherwise. And then finally, make sure you discuss the risk categories that should be considered, okay, regards to your question. So that is just to give you some insight on the kinds of things that you ought to have considered. If you have, fantastic. If you've left out anything, go back and do a little cleaning up. Make sure you are in the word number count requirements. Please make sure you reread your paper or have somebody read it for grammar, errors, spelling, structural stuff. Those guys are looking for all of that crap. Not crap, but you know what I mean. Especially the Brits, for some reason. Okay? So make sure you do all that stuff and then send it in. Any questions?
No.
No questions? Okay.
No, that was quite helpful. That was quite helpful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
My pleasure. You guys know how to reach me. Thanks to whoever gave you my phone number. Please, if you have an issue, you can send me a text, or if a text is too impersonal, feel free to call me and I'll be happy to respond to any concerns you might have. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Stuff you have to do.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a safe weekend.
Good night. You too.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.